The man sneered at the bloody whimpering mass under his foot, the people around him cheering with every stomp he gave it. "This is for my little brother, Demon," he yelled, giving it a hard kick. The force was enough to send the form sliding up under a light, where it was revealed to be a small blonde-haired boy. His name, Naruto Uzumaki. The reason for the beating: he made the mistake of going outside on October 10th, 5 years to the day of Kyuubi's attack on Konoha. Unfortunately, this was also his birthday. Several villagers caught him before he could find a hiding place, and now only one thought went through his young mind. Why? Kill it. That thing shouldn't have been allowed to live in the first place. Die, you filthy monster. Every shout was punctuated with another kick or stomp by others joining the original attacker. Why do they hate me? What did I do? He choked on a scream as a sharp blade was driven into him. It's time to send you back to hell where you belong. Why? Was all he could think before his world faded into darkness. I see you have finally arrived, young one. A voice boomed in his ears, making him jump to his feet. Who's there? Naruto cried, thinking someone else had arrived to beat on him. He paled when he saw he wasn't in the village anymore. Instead, it was some kind of massive cavern with strange glowing pipes along the walls and ceiling. As he looked around, he realized he wasn't hurting anymore. He saw his bruises and cuts. Even the bloodstains on his clothes were gone. Where am I? The voice chuckled. Look behind you, kid. He obeyed, only to find himself staring at a gate filling the entire cavern. Two large red eyes greeted him from behind the bars. A set of equally large fangs grinned at him. So I meet my jailer at last. Jailer. The boy backed up a little. You don't know about me, do you? The eyes and teeth lowered down to Naruto until he could. See, they were attached to the head of a giant red fox. They call me Kyuubi. Naruto began backing up even more. Kyuubi. But they said you're dead. Reports of my demise were rather exaggerated. The fox responded, I'm as alive as you are, more or less. Seeing the obvious confusion on the boy's face, he continued, Unfortunately, me being in here is the reason those sorry excuses from mammals out there hold you in contempt. The fourth Hokage couldn't destroy me outright, so he sealed me inside a just-born baby. You were that baby. So I'm a monster. Naruto's voice began to crack, but it was cut off by Kyuubi. You? Monster? Don't make me laugh, kid. Did you volunteer to be the one I was sealed into? Did you even know you had a tailed beast locked away in you? No, he may have been a nine-tailed fox, but even he found abusing a child disgusting. The only monsters are the ones ganging up on a 5-year-old boy at this moment. Naruto looked up at him. I never did anything to make them hate me. He asked, tears starting to run down his face. No, kid. The only crime you're committing, as far as they're concerned, is still being alive. The tears began to shift from sorrow to anger. Anger at being hated for something he never asked for. Anger at being the scapegoat. I never did anything to them. I never did anything. Back in the real world, the group were getting ready to deliver the final blow. A woman crouched down with a kunai at his neck. Die. Suddenly, Naruto's eyes shot open, looking her dead on. I never did anything to you, he screamed, bringing a hand across her face as hard as he could. The woman fell back, screaming in pain, not from the slap, but from the slash marks across her face. This caused the rest of the group to step in shock, especially when they saw claws sticking out from the boy's fingertips. They were small, but the wounds they had inflicted showed they were razor sharp. I never did anything to any of you, he growled, slowly getting to his feet. Back in the seal, Kyuubi was getting a shock as well. The blue glow of the piles was being replaced by a gleaming silver, and in the darkness, he could hear the faint howl of a wolf. After a moment, the look of surprise on his face shifted to realization, and he fell to the ground, roaring in laughter. Cammy, who would have thought? He said between fits. I don't know who to pity more, the Bakas in this village or the kid when he gets older. Naruto's attackers paled at what they were seeing. The Kyuubi brat was glaring at them, tears still running. You hate me. You beat me. You hurt me. For something I never did, he roared as his small body started undergoing a transformation. His hair lengthened and became thicker and shaggier looking, draping down to his shoulders. His eyes now had silver mixed in with the sapphire blue. His teeth began extending into fangs that shined when he snarled at them. Finally, a pair of jet-black ears emerged from the top of his head, and a black lupin tail sprouted from the bottom of his spine, matching the coat of fur now covering him, the only difference being 3 streaks of white on each side of his face, mimicking his whisker marks. You are a monster, the woman he struck screeched, trying to reach for the kunai she dropped. Monster, Naruto growled, his voice slightly huskier than before. The only monsters I see are you. With that, he lunged into the group like a cornered animal. Several of them yelled as he began slashing and clawing at any of them he could get to. His claws weren't able to deliver a fatal strike, but they were doing enough. The woman, whether out of anger that the QB brat had the nerve to strike back or fear that he'd come to finish her, grabbed the kunai and dove at him, intent on making it fatal. Unfortunately for her, the action was never completed before she was literally snatched out of the air by her throat. Naruto, came a voice that the boy recognized. The voice of Sarutobi, the 3rd Hokage. The old man glared at the woman in his grip as a group of ANBU that were loyal to him began rounding up the ones responsible. Sir, there's no fatalities, but all of them were slashed up pretty good. One wearing an eagle mask reported. I want all of them sent to a Biki immediately. The old man growled. Grandpa, so? Came a voice from amongst the scattered civilians and shinobi. Sarutobi sighed in relief when he heard the boy's voice, but he paled slightly when he turned to check on him. Standing where the voice came from, wearing Naruto's clothes, was a black-furred ukami standing upright. Several of the NBU seemed to be started as well. Hey, a werewolf, one of them whispered. Sarutobi paced frantically around his office. It had barely been a day since the incident, and the council was going wild. The side that hated Naruto were screaming that his transformation was a sign that he was the Kyuubi, regardless of if it was a wolf or fox. That damn warhawk, Danzo, was even more insistent that he be drafted into Root and be made a weapon. Fortunately, the ones that actually cared about the boy were more concerned with how he was doing after the attack and his subsequent retaliation. The old man took a long draw on his pipe as his son, Asuma, came in. How was he doing? He recalled the boy passing out after things settled down, most likely from exhaustion and blood loss from his injuries. He's still sound asleep, Dad. Dog and Owl are keeping guard, Asuma replied. When Cammy's name happened to him, he looks just like a wolf, Sarutobi said, taking another draw. To be more specific, a werewolf. Asuma nearly dropped the cigarette he had. A what? Dad, you can't be serious. Those don't exist. In this case, they do, Asuma. Technically, he takes it after his mother, Kushina. Kushina? Wait, wasn't she Minato's girlfriend? Asuma's eyes widened. No way, no way. Naruto's... Sarutobi nodded. The son of the 4th homage, Mina to Kamikaze, and the werewolf, Kushina Yumiak. In a way, I guess you could call it bloodline at this point since Naruto inherited it. Asuma's head was spinning from this. Wait, if Kushina-chan was a werewolf, how come we never saw her like that? Between the idea of being attacked because of it or that the council would have tried to make her act as a breeder, a bunch of werewolf for Danzo to play with. His eyes glinted with malice at the name. I can't blame her for not letting anyone know. To be honest, Minato was the only person in Konoha to ever see her fully transformed. But if that's the case, then shouldn't he have turned back by now? Sarutobi whipped his head around towards his son. What do you mean by now? Just that. He still had everything. The fur, claws, even the tail. Before either of them could continue, a loud scream echoed from outside. Shit, that sounded like it came from the room Naruto's in, Asuma said as the 2 Sarutobis made a dash to the source of the scream. When they arrived, they saw the 2 ANBU had already kicked in the door. Al was kneeling at the bed. What the hell happened? Asuma demanded. Grandpa Sorrow. There's something in the mirror, came Naruto's voice from under the bed. They could all hear him literally whimper. Naruto woke up, and apparently he was frightened by his reflection, replied Owl, sighing in a mix of relief and slight amusement. Sarutobi went over and knelt down to see the blonde curled up underneath the box spring. It's okay, Naruto. You can come out. No one's going to hurt you. It took the Hokage a few minutes of coaxing, but he soon stood back up holding a slightly nervous Naruto. He walked over to the mirror. Is this what you were talking about? Naruto flinched when he saw the black-furred thing again, but this time it was in the old man's arms just like he was. He slowly waved a hand. The thing waved as well. It was then he finally saw the fur. His eyes winded when he saw it. It's me. Yes, Naruto. That's your reflection. Wow, what happened? He was starting to get scared. Naruto, it's okay. It's okay. Kami, how do I explain this? Naruto, you're a werewolf. A wolf. Werewolf. It's basically a person who can transform into a wolf-like creature. In your case, it's something you inherited from your mother. My mom. How? Sarutobi sat down on the bed with him. I had prayed that I could have held off telling you this until you were old enough, Naruto. Your mother's name was Kushina Uzumaki. She came from what was once known as Whirlpool Country. We don't know if it was something akin to a bloodline or just her. He took a deep breath. And your father? Hokage-sama. Are you sure about this? Dog asked tentatively. He needs to know so he can understand what happened. Sarutobi replied, Naruto, your father was Minato Namikaze. The fourth Hokage Naruto's breath began to get shallow. He put K-Cubi in me. Asuma choked on his cigarette, and Owl nearly knocked his mask off as he stood up. You know? How? QB told me. He also said I had nothing to do with what happened that day. He didn't seem happy, then everyone blamed me for it. The QB? This makes things even more unusual. Sarutobi thought, honestly surprised that the fox actually seemed honorable. In a way, Naruto, he said, trying to calm the upset boy. Naruto, I know it feels like your father did it to you deliberately, but you must understand, sealing QB into you was his last resort in stopping him. It was the last thing he ever wanted to do. But, why me? He choked back a sob. Believe me, Naruto. Minato would have rather sealed QB in himself if he could, but his body wouldn't have been able to hold the fox for long. Only a newborn baby would have been able to adapt to it in time. Plus, do you think it would have been right for him to make someone else use their child? After a minute, Naruto shook his head. I guess not. He soon found himself being hugged by the old man. Grandpa Saru? Yes, Naruto. Ow, where do I take off the fur? QB's sweat dropped. Oh, damn it. I knew there was something I forgot to tell the kid about. Sarutobi scratched his chin. I'm afraid I don't know how, Naruto. Kushina never let anyone but Minato see her in her transformed state. But I don't know how I changed. He whimpered. The Hokage began racking his braid for an idea. Okay, it's not much, but at least for now, we'll just say you've woken a bloodline. In a way, it's not too far off since you inherited it. If you start feeling uncomfortable about it in public, we can try to fix up a disguise for you. Oh, Naruto said, stifling a yawn. Asuma chuckled. Gotta agree with him there. It's 3 a.m. All right, Naruto, try and get some sleep. We'll work something out in the morning. Okay. Night, Grandpa Saru Asuma. Naruto yawned again as Sarutobi tucked him in. As if the poor kid didn't have enough crap to put up with in life. Asuma muttered as he and his father left the 2 ENBU to resume guard duty over the boy. Naruto was soon sound asleep and back in front of QB's cage. There you are, the fox said. There's something I forgot to warn you about earlier concerning your new talent. What? Do you know how I can turn back? The blonde asked hopefully. I'm afraid not. Actually, I didn't even know you were a werewolf until I saw that. He extended a claw through the bars and pointed behind Naruto. There stood a huge statue of a wolf on a pedestal, its head held high and taking an almost noble stance. What's that? Naruto cried out. That represents your inner wolf. The lycanthrope side of you. Lyca what? Lycanthrope. A fancy name for werewolf. It appeared when you began transforming. Because of this, I have some good news and some bad news. W, what's the good news? Well, because you're a werewolf, things like your strength, agility, and speed will be increased. You'll have enhanced senses. Plus, you'll heal faster. Of course, with me sealed in you, your natural healing and stamina are already amplified, plus the larger than normal chakra stores you're already acquiring. Yada. Naruto yipped, already starting to like what he's hearing. The bad news, since you seem to have transformed by way of instinct instead of willingly, I have absolutely no idea how you could change back. Naruto had only one thing to say in reaction. Asuma darted from tree to tree, making sure he stayed as silent as possible. He knew his quarry was nearby, and probably knew he was close as well. Suddenly a rustle of leaves caught his attention, and he made a beeline toward the sound. Within seconds, he was diving headlong into a bush, a yelp of surprise accompanying the action. "Ha, gotcha. Tag, you're at Naruto." He smirked at the wolf boy. Naruto pouted under the hooded jacket he was wearing. "No fair. How'd you find me?" The Hokage's son just laughed. "I'm a ninja, remember? RRRR. Just wait till I'm old enough to go to the academy. I'll show you." Asuma couldn't help but chuckle. It had been over a month since Naruto's transformation, and he had gotten used to it rather well, considering the boy now looked like a giant puppy. Given the abilities he said Kyuubi told him he would have, Asuma had a feeling he'd grow up to be someone not to be trifled with. "Hey, Asuma." Naruto tugged his vest. "Can we get something to eat? I want to get something on my stomach before that scary girl finds me again." He gave a shiver at that. "Yeah, okay, Naruto. But why do you still call he that? Have you thought maybe she just likes you?" "Asuma, Hana Inazuka is scary. She tackles me every time she sees me. All because I had to go to that meeting with Grandpa Flashback." Naruto looked uneasy as he followed Sarutobi to the council room. The Hokage had warned him that although some of the council had nothing against him, a fair number weren't so agreeable. "Okay, Naruto, just stick by me and stay calm. This will only take a few minutes." The boy nodded and they went in. Inside, where it had been brimming with chatter, went deathly silent when they saw him. That is until a loud squeal of kawaii jolted all of them, and some Inazuka suddenly appeared beside Sarutobi, hugging and nuzzling a startled Naruto. "You didn't say he'd be so adorable, Sarutobi." Some giggled as she held him. Every guy, their sweat dropped. Even the stoic Shibi Aburame, Tsum-san. "It may be best if you set him down, so we can resume," he said. She balked for a moment until a look from Sarutobi made her relent. "All right, now I've called this meet in light of certain events that happened last week." Sarutobi glanced at the council members who were giving Naruto death glares. "In light of this, it should be put down or given to Danzo-san, so we can get some use out of it." A council member spat, making Naruto quickly hide behind the old man. Sarutobi gave a look to the two Yanbiyu stationed at the door. "Take him to Ibiki." "Sarutobi, you can't be serious." Koharu sputtered as the man was dragged off screaming. "I'm dead serious, Koharu. I will not tolerate anyone like that in my council room." He took a second to calm down before continuing. "The main reason I brought Naruto here is to let you know what happened." Flashback end. He couldn't really understand much of what they were talking about, except the ones that didn't like him kept giving him really mean looks. The ones that didn't just looked his way every now and then. Tsum, however, felt the urge to introduce him to her 10-year-old daughter, Hana, who greeted him in exactly the same manner as her mother. Unfortunately, it soon became her way of saying hi to him whenever she spotted the young werewolf. Always calling him Puppy-kun didn't help in his mind. Naruto had wanted to go for ramen, but Asuma talked him into dango. Thankfully, the hood was enough to cover his face so the employees wouldn't recognize him. "Naruto," Asuma piped up between mouthfuls. "You know you'll be old enough to go to the academy within a year, right?" "Yeah, I just hope they'll let me in even though, Now that he knew why everyone hated him, he was scared they'd use it as a reason to bar him from getting in. "I doubt it, Naruto. I told you Dad had passed that saw banning anyone from talking about it to at least give you a chance around kids your age. Besides, if they try, they'll just get in trouble for deliberately trying to hinder someone. I guess. Naruto rolled his last dumpling around on the plate. Asuma frowned. He could see a lot of potential in the kid. Hell, his dad was known as the Yellow Flash. But what he had learned had already planted a seed of doubt. Then it hit him, and a sly grin appeared on his face. Naruto might think it was crazy at first, but it couldn't hurt to give it a shot. Hey Naruto, how do you feel about getting a bit of a head start on academy training? The young werewolf nearly choked on his dango. Are you serious? Sure, I'm still on the duty roster, so I can't really do much, but I do know another Jounin. He's a little odd, but a decent guy. He would care less what you look like, as long as you're willing to make the effort. I think he's already helping one boy out, so I don't think he'd mind another. Yehia. He was nearly bouncing in his seat at the idea until Asuma got him to calm down. Hey, okay. I'll take you to meet him tomorrow. His name's Mike Guy. Yes, my youthful student. If we cannot do 500 crunches, we shall run 25 times around Konoha. Hi, Guy Sensei. Naruto winced, holding his ears at the noise. Asuma said he was odd, but what in Kami's name was the man wearing? That's just wrong. Kyuubi shuddered at what he had on. Hey, Guy, Asuma called out, nudging Naruto forward. The green-clad man stopped mid-crunch and hopped to his feet. Asuma, what brings you here? And who is this? This is Naruto Uzumaki. He nudged Naruto over. Don't worry. He's okay. As he nudged, the hood of his jacket fell, giving both Guy and the boy training with him a full view of his furry face. Guy broke into laughter. Naruto cringed, thinking he was going to act like the council or make fun, but it never came. Instead, Guy clapped a hand on his head. So this is the puppy I heard young Hana Inuzuka talking about with her mother. Why he positively reeks of youthfulness. While Naruto attempted to process what the man just said, the other boy came over, giving him a curious look. He looked like he was a year older than him. Oh yes, this is Rock Lee. Unfortunately, he has a chakra condition, so he is unable to perform any jin or ninjutsu. But we shall not let that hinder him. Why are you furry? Lee asked. Naruto looked up at Asuma. Should I tell them? That's up to you, kiddo. If you want it kept secret, that's your choice. Naruto gave it a moment before deciding honesty was better. I'm a werewolf. What's a werewolf? I can turn into one, kinda, except I don't know how to turn back. Not to worry, Naruto-kun. Guy boomed. You have my word as Konoha's green beast. Your secret shall remain safe. Good. Now, I think I'll you to get acquainted with them. With that, Asuma left Naruto with the bushy eyebrow duo. Crack, smash, crunch. The sounds of blows landing echoed in the early morning outside Konoha, along with wood being broken. In a small clearing near the Hokage monument, 6-year-old Naruto Uzumaki and 7-year. Old Rock Lee stood in the middle of a ring of makeshift training dummies. Some had been beaten on repeatedly. Sweating and trying to catch their breath, the two boys stood back to admire their handiwork. Boards lay cracked and splintered around them. Blood could be seen staining the points of impact, as well as on their fists, showing the extent of their effort. Lee grinned, Yash. We are improving, my friend, he said, giving Guy's nice guy pose, complete with 2 sparkle. Yeah, we're getting there. Naruto couldn't help but chuckle at his friend. Lee just about idolized Konoha's taijutsu master, even to the point of dressing like the man. Of course, the man was ecstatic about having someone emulating him. The two had tried to get Naruto to try on one of the suits, but to their disappointment and Naruto's relief, spandex turned out to be unbearably itchy for the little werewolf. That and Kyuubi's threat of giving him embarrassing nightmares for the rest of his life, if he did, where it got him into a makeshift karate GI. I see my youthful students are up early, Guy said as he appeared in a swirl of leaves, making Lee stand at attention. Naruto, however, simply gave a nod of greeting. It had been close to a year since Naruto started training with the other boy, and the two had become almost like brothers. At first, Lee couldn't help but be curious about Naruto's condition, but he soon got over it and thought the abilities he had because of it could be fun to have. Thanks to the training and encouragement from Lee and Guy, Naruto was now more relaxed and confident. And thanks to Asuma, he learned to not really give a damn about what people thought of his appearance. The only except was his constant fear of being tackled by girls who, much to his chagrin, were drawn to his fur, ears, and tail. Hence his reason for staying out of town as much as possible. Thankfully, his wolf side was at home. Lee, it's almost time for you to be at the academy. Guy stated. Oh, hi Guy Sensei. I will see you later, Naruto. He called out as he took off. Later, Lee, he replied before turning back and attacking the dummies again. Since Lee couldn't use anything aside from taijutsu, that was all Guy would teach so as not to show favoritism. He didn't mind, though. He'd be able to learn ninjutsu in class. Oi, Naruto, I almost forgot. Hokage-sama asked me to tell you that your first day starts next week. Hearing this, Naruto missed his target and fell over in a heap. Serious? He asked, immediately hopping to his feet, tail wagging like mad. Guy nodded, stifling a chuckle at the sight. Hi, he has decided you are ready. Yes, he started to jump in glee when a sound nearby caught his attention. Thanks to his enhanced senses, it was hard, if not almost impossible, to sneak up on him. He took a quick sniff of the air and whimpered, his ears drooping. Oh no. Puppy Kun, cried Hana Inuzuka as she came diving over Guy's head and onto Naruto. Hi UNFF. He was promptly driven into the dirt with the girl on top of him. Oof. Hi Hana, he groaned. Where have you been? Me and Ka-san haven't seen you for months. He grunted as he tried to get unpinned by the girl. I've been training. NF, could you get off me? Ah. She buried her face in his chest fur, making him inadvertently blush through. But you're so cuddly. Guy finally gave in and doubled over in laughter at the boy's expression. The next few days went by relatively quiet, with the exception of Ichiraku, constantly wanting to pet him or scratch his ears whenever he went for ramen. He was heading back to the training area after dinner at the Ichiraku stand when a loud commotion caught his attention. It seemed kind of late for a party, as far as he knew. Hey, QB, we're near the Hyugas, aren't we? I kid. It sounds like something really got the lot of them going. I say we check it out, just for the hell of it. He made his way to the Hyuga compound in time to see a man in full shinobi gear coming over the walls with a bag over his shoulder. It was shuffling a bit, and he could hear what sounded like muffled crying and whimpers coming from inside. Yeah, with our own clan carrying your eyes, little girl, Kimo will be unstoppable. The man chuckled sinisterly. What's he talking about? Kid, he's kidnapping one of the Hyuga children. And from the sound of things, they plan to make their own Hyugas, whether she wants to or not. Say what? Don't you remember when you saw puppies at the Inuzukas and Tsum told you where they were from? They want to use her for that same purpose. As soon as QB said that, Naruto finally realized what he was seeing. The girl was going to be used for babies against her will. In a flash, searing anger boiled up from inside him. The idea of someone doing something so detestable, so vile, and that they were doing it willingly caused him to bare his fangs in a primal snarl and let out a howl. Back in the seal, QB had the pleasure of seeing the statue suddenly come alight with what looked like chakra. Let this trash taste my fury. It suddenly roared, making QB jump back a bit. What in the nine hells just happened? He asked, not expecting this at all. The kidnapper, a man Kumo had sent to be an emissary, felt like busting out laughing. The job had been so easy, it was almost pathetic, and those Hyugas still hadn't found him. As soon as he was out of the village, the Byakugan would only make lightning more powerful. At least, that's what he had been thinking until a blood-chilling howl stopped him in his tracks. Even his captive went silent. What was that? He asked himself. His answer came in the form of a roar from above. He looked in time to see something silhouetted against the full moon and coming straight down on him. There was a flash of claws. His world went black and indescribable pain replaced it. The thing had slashed his eyes. Ah! The man screamed, dropping the bag as he clutched his face. Naruto, at the moment acting more on something besides himself, caught it and bit the rope holding it closed. Whoever's in here smells really nice. He thought as he pulled the bag down, kind of like a cinnamon stick. Inside was a girl no older than he was, bound and gagged. She had dark blue, almost black hair and pale lavender, pupilless eyes. For a moment he thought she was blind until she looked straight at him, fear still on her face. He quickly pulled the gag off. "Are you okay?" he asked. She gave a shaky nod as he used his claws to cut her bindings. "Name's Naruto." "Hinata," she replied in almost a whisper. She was still scared. "Hi, Hinata. Since you're okay, I'm going to finish this." He dashed towards a man from Kumo and leaped, planting both feet in his face. The blow had enough momentum to knock him off his feet. The second Naruto landed, he jumped again and landed feet first on the kidnapper. He meant to land on his stomach, but his aim was a tad low. The fact that his GI had weight sewn into it didn't make it any better. The unfortunate bastard's scream of agony echoed all over the Hidden Leaf village. A hard kick to the face stopped it, as well as dislocating his jaw. With the man promptly blind and curled up in the fetal position sobbing, he went back to Hinata. "It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you," he said, kneeling in front of her. She started to reply when shouts of "Hinata," followed by running, reached them. "Your parents, I take?" he asked. She nodded and he looked around. He'd only seen Hayashi Hyuga at the council meeting and didn't know how the family would react to him, so making himself scared felt like the best option. "I better go, Hinata. Maybe we'll meet again." He turned to go when his ears picked up the sound of her standing. Thank you," she said. No problem." He gave her a foxy grin that, even though it had sharp fangs, made her blush. With that, he hightailed it into the trees as Hayashi and his wife, Hinamori, came running up with several others. "Hinata." Hinamori scooped up her daughter, holding her tight. "Thank Kami you're all right." "Hayashi-sama, look." One of the other Hyugas held a lantern over the curled up emissary from Kumo. Someone worked him over rather nicely. "Search the area. Whoever stopped him couldn't have gotten far. I want to know, save my daughter. Move." As the others spread out, Hayashi went over to his wife. "Hinata, what happened?" "Naruto saved me," she replied, the blush still evident on her face. Hayashi's eyebrows shot up. "Naruto, there's only one person in Konoha with that name. But it's impossible. He's barely Hinata's age." "Dear, what are you talking about? Who's Naruto?" Hinamori piped up, still cradling Hinata. "Hina, if she means who I think she does, our daughter was rescued by Naruto Uzumaki, Konoha's werewolf." Meanwhile, Naruto was running full clip back to the training site. For the first time in his life, he was experiencing a rush. "QB, what happened?" All of a sudden, I felt like, a warrior. My mind and body just reacted on their own. I don't know, kid. When you got angry after figuring out what was happening, the wolf statue in here suddenly started glowing. I think I may have an idea, but I'll need to think on it. Right now, though, you need to get some sleep. You start the road towards becoming a shinobi in the next couple of days. Yeah, I could use a little shut-eye. He yawned, curling up beside a tree. Soon all that could be heard outside of the crickets was Naruto softly snoring. Back at the Hyuga compound, things were soon settling down. The Kumo emissary had been taken away, and everyone began to relax a bit. Hinamori was still holding Hinata tightly. "Naruto Uzumaki, thank you," she said as Hinata drifted off to sleep. Irika Yumino rapped his chalk against the blackboard. "All right, class, settle down." As he started going over the lesson, the door opened at a jounin entered. "Sorry to disturb you, Irika-sen, but you have a new student." "A newcomer?" "Well, it's not too late in the year for them to catch up." The jounin stepped aside and all sound vanished, save for Irika dropping his chalk. The new student, a 4 feet 1 inch boy covered in black fur with long, shaggy blonde hair, dog ears sticking up from the hair, and a furry tail poking out the back of his GI, looked at Irika and the student's "Yo, name's Naruto Uzumaki. Yo, name's Naruto Uzumaki. Silence overcame the classroom for what felt like an eternity. Irika was a mix of nervousness at the QB container being in his class and wondering why the boy was so damn fuzzy. Several students were wondering the exact thing. His ears twitched a bit at the lack of sound. That did it. More than half the girls in the room let loose with a cry of K-A-W-W-I. That rattled the windows and knocked every boy in range off their seats. Naruto, who had been hoping that he could have gone through without this happening, whimpered as he became the victim of a ganglomp. Irika finally snapped out of his shock in time to try and fish the unfortunate boy out of the mass cuddle attack he was experiencing. Girls, get off him and get back to your seats. Let him up. After several minutes of prying arms off him and getting girls to stop burying their faces in his fur, Irika helped the now shaking Naruto to his feet. "Attaboy, kid," QB yelled out in approval. "Why do girls do that?" He whimpered, seeing his attackers staring at him with hearts in their eyes as Irika ushered them back to their seats. As he looked, he noticed the other half of the girls in class were giving him looks like he had just called them a filthy name. He shook it off and gave the rest of the class the once-over, letting his nose do some of the work. Thankfully, he had the foresight to train his senses as well. Judging from the appearance of some, he guessed they were kids of the shinobi heads in the council. One of his tacklers, a girl with almost platinum blonde hair, had the distinct aroma of flowers. He guessed she was a Yamanaka since he heard Inochi now worked as a florist. Beside her was a heavy-looking boy chowing down on a bag of potato chips, and another one sound asleep at the desk. The big one had to be a Kimichi, and the sleeper's pineapple-like hairdo screamed Nara. In the back sat a boy with shades on who didn't seem to show much emotion. Naruto guessed he was an Aburame from the way he was acting. The pink-haired girl and boy sitting beside her he didn't know. The black-haired kid seemed like he was in a foul mood over something and just gave Naruto a look like he was sizing him up. Two people, however, he did recognize. One was a boy who smelled heavily of dog with marks on his cheeks, just like Tsum and Hana, Kiba and Izuka. Naruto groaned inwardly. Kiba once heard Hana use her nickname for the young werewolf and broke into laughter over it before getting bopped. Another was a pale girl with lavender eyes and dark blue hair. This same one smelled of cinnamon. Naruto smiled a bit, not expecting to see her again so soon. "Hey, Hinata," he called out, his tail wagging a bit and causing another wave of squealing to rip through the room. Several girls whipped their heads in her direction, looking almost jealous at her being called by name. She simply stared at him wide-eyed, a heavy blush slowly creeping up on her face. She never really got to see who her rescuer looked like that night, so she had no idea. But she remembered his voice, and now she had been torn between her Hyuga dignity and tackling the furry boy herself. "Hello, Naruto," she said, fighting the urge to squeal at how cute she thought his ears and tail were. Yes." Irika coughed after things calmed down enough for him to resume class. "Naruto, please take a seat." The boy nodded and made his way toward the desks when Irika stopped him. "Naruto, why are you barefoot, and are your clothes clinking?" "Huh? Oh, I don't wear footwear because the claws on my feet get caught on the inside. Nearly tore one off last time I tried wearing shoes. As for my clothes, they have weights sewn into them. It was Guy Sensei's idea." "Wait, you've been training with my guy?" Irika's eyebrows elevated, along with several boys. However, they were more interested in how he could carry that much without being winded, not really knowing who Guy was. The black-haired boy glared at him slightly. "Kinda. Mostly just getting me ready for when I got here." "Oh yes, very well. Go ahead and take a seat." He started up the steps to a seat in the back when Kiba piped up. "So you finally got here, puppykin?" Kiba snickered. "Shut up, Rover," Naruto whispered back before continuing. He made it halfway up when an oddly enjoyable sensation suddenly shot through his tail. Looking behind, he saw a girl with pink hair nuzzling it, her arms wrapped around it as tightly as possible. "It's so soft," she cooed. "Sakura Haruno," Irika started. "Put his tail down and get back to your seat." Over the next couple of weeks, Naruto soon got to know some of the students. Fortunately, he managed to pass off his lycanthropy as a bloodline. Shuji Akimichi seemed delighted to find a fellow muncher in Naruto, whose wolf side gave him an impressive appetite. Shikimura Nara spent most of his time asleep, but still managed to keep up with the class. He and Chuji were close friends. Shino was your typical Aburame, stoic, never talked unless he had something to say. When Naruto found out the clan all had insects living inside him, Shino seemed a tad surprised the fur-clad boy didn't seem creeped out or disgusted. "Dude, I have fur, wolf ears, and a tail," was Naruto's only reaction to that discovery. Sasuke Uchiha was a different story. The boy would just sit there, brooding every now and then looking at Naruto like he had something he coveted. The looks were borderline angry. Asuma had told him about the massacre of the Uchiha clan at the hands of Sasuke's older brother, Itachi. The boy had been traumatized by the event, but seemed to be getting back to normal life. Naruto had made an attempt to make friends, but only got Sasuke's back instead. He also learned of the Sasuke fangirls, several girls who thought the sun rose and set on him. It turned out the girl who were always glaring at him were doing so because they felt he was trying to show the boy up with his weighted clothes. It turned out they were the more hardcore ones, Sakura Hirno and Ino Yamanka, while two of the top members of the fan club were still somewhat civil about it, although they would try to pounce his tail whenever it was near. Hinata, to Naruto's relief, was the exception. She would stare at his fur with a kawaii look on her face, but refrained from tackling him, although she had developed a fondness for scratching his ears, after asking if it was okay, though. Naruto seemed to enjoy it too, much to the chagrin of the girls who wanted to pet him. Naruto soon found it hard to train at school with fangirls trying to yell at him for trying to look better than their Sasuke-kun, and Sasuke himself, who was showing up nearby, as if he was going to discover a hidden secret the werewolf had. Kyuubi started to dislike him as well. Ugh, that boy is becoming a pest. The fox growled after Naruto once again caught Sasuke trying to watch him train. I know, he's starting to be as annoying as he is rude. Every time I try and talk to him, he just glares then walks off. I have a feeling he's getting jealous. Jealous? Of what? Given the way he glared after you mentioned your weighted clothes, I'd have to say he's probably hoping to swipe them for himself. Wouldn't put it past him if he keeps spying on you like this. I don't think so. He wants them. He'll need the help of all his fangirls to yank them off my back. Kyuubi chuckled. He was defiantly going to enjoy it when the time came to give the kid his own brand of training. Meanwhile, Sarutobi was discussing the attempted Hyuga kidnapping with the council. Any word from Kyumo? The bastards are claiming the guy was acting on his own. Some growled. They just don't want to admit because they know this counts as an act of war. Ibiki can't get a whole lot of information out of him either. He's still pretty messed up from what Naruto did to him. Chusa coughed. However, they said they're sending something to try and make up for the misunderstanding, as they called it. They said it was one of the Raikage's prized possessions. Their idea of a peace offering, I guess. Sarutobi snorted. I see he's as generous as a ways, his voice dripping with sarcasm. Speaking of the kidnapping, Hinamori has been adamant about meeting Naruto to thank him, but the boy bolts off to who knows where after school is out. Hayashi said, well, he doesn't really like being on the streets any more than he has to so he can avoid being tackled by girls. Hayashi scratched his chin. He recalled Hinata telling him about the poor boy getting dogpiled on his first day. But he needed to get the boy to come or his wife would never let him hear the end of it. At the borders of fire and lightning, two Kyumo Jounin were making their way across. Both were heavily armed and carrying chains connected to a collar on a small girl between them. Her hands and feet were shackled too. Why the hell does Raikage-sama want us to take this thing to Konoha in the first place? One of them said, giving the girl a scathing glare. Who knows and who cares? Let's just hurry. The sooner we take it there, the sooner we can go back home. Sarutobi was borderline livid. Had he known that the possession the Raikage was sending was a 9-year-old girl, He would have had half a mind to take out the men who brought her solely on the way she was chained and shackled and think of ways to tear the rakeage a new one. Unfortunately, they left her at the city gates and made themselves scarce. It took an EMBU a good half hour to pick all the locks on her. "What's your name?" he asked, looking at her now sitting across from his desk. "Yujito ni," came the reply. It didn't take a Kage to tell she was thinking he was going to treat it in a similar manner there, as she was in Kyumo. "It's okay, Yujito. I find the current rakeage to be a bit of greasy punk myself." He grinned when she bit back a giggle at the insult. "See? Konoha isn't like Kyumo, so tell me, why did they send you?" Yujito shrugged. "I don't know. The rakeage usually wouldn't let me outside the Kage Tower. He'd always say I belonged to him when I was old enough." Sarutobi bristled at that. Me and Nibi hate him. She clamped a hand over her mouth at the slip, her eyes wide in fear. The Hokage stared. "You and Nibi?" As in Nibi, no Nakomata. Seeing her tense up at the question confirmed it. "I see. You're the cat's container, aren't you? Think I know now why he chose to send you." The Baka assumed we'd be appalled and demand you be sent back. Or do something else so he could try and demand something in compensation. Yujito was still tensed up. What are you going to do?" "Oh, I'm thinking a nice thank you letter is order," he replied. It's time one of his plans came back to bite him. You aren't sending me back? Not unless you want to go back." The vigorous shaking of her head was his answer. Meanwhile, in her own seal, Nibi was sensing something that made her quiver. "Nibi, are you okay?" Yujito asked, picking up on her tenant's reaction. I just sensed his presence." Nibi purred. "Kyubi, he's near." Yujito blushed a tad at how the cat was acting, and the old man noticed. "Yujito, is something wrong?" Nibi's picking up her old crush." "Say what?" "Well, Nibi has a crush on the Kyubi no Kitsune, and she's detecting him." It took a few minutes for Sarutobi to let this sink in. Nibi has a thing for Kyubi. She nodded, making the Hokage slump back into his chair. "Oh boy. Ha Hokage-sama?" She's getting kind of antsy. She hasn't seen him in 6 years. Sarutobi rubbed the bridge of his nose, knowing it would be either tell her or have the Nibi go nuts. "Well, that's because he's been contained as well." "No fair." Nibi whined. "You mean there's someone like me here?" He nodded. "I'm afraid you'll have to find him. Law prevents me from telling you his name." It's a guy?" "Cammy, please let Kyukuin's container be cute." "Nibi, quit it." "Okay, everyone gather around for taijutsu practice." Irika called out, motioning everyone towards the training ring. Naruto sighed when he spotted Sasuke glaring at him from the other side of the ring again. He looked over at Kiba. This really getting tiresome. He just can't stand competition." The Inazuka scoffed. "All right, you two, pipe down." Irika said, "Okay, these will just be basic sparring matches. Taijutsu only. No weapons, nin or jinjutsu, got it?" He checked a clipboard. First up, Chuji Akimichi and Kiba Inazuka. As the two got up to face each other, Hinata came up to Naruto. Naruto-kun, what's up, Hinata?" "Well, Father would like you to come over after class. Mother's been wanting to meet you for a while." Naruto felt uneasy about that. He had no idea how the Hyugas felt about him. But the hopeful look on the girl's face didn't leave him with much choice. "Okay, I'll go." He nodded before turning back to the match. The match was rather straightforward until Kiba poked fun at Chuji's size and ended up getting sat on until he gave up. Hinata went against Sakura and quickly ended it with her family's fighting style. Naruto didn't know the name of Ino's opponent, but she fared better than her friend/rival. The next two were supposed to be Shino and Shikimuru, but the Nara forfeited and sat down. A few other matches went by until. Next, Sasuke Uchiha and Naruto Uzumaki. The fangirls immediately began yelling for Sasuke and claiming that he'd wiped the floor with Uzumaki. Sasuke gave a scowl as Naruto slid into the strong fist stance. "What's your problem, Sasuke? You've been giving me the evil eye ever since I got here." "You," he muttered before charging him. Naruto quickly jumped out of the way. "Me? What did I do? He blocked a kick and shoved him away. How do you manage to push yourself like you do? What is your secret? He yelled, throwing a punch at Naruto's face as hard as he can, only to have it blocked. It's just something I have. I can last a while, so I just keep going till I get tired. Tell me, how can a parentless freak like you do something I can't? Naruto's eyes narrowed. What did you call me? He snarled. Real smart move, brat. Kyuubi muttered. Uchiha. Iruka snapped. That was uncalled for. This is going to get ugly. Kiba whispered to Shikamaru. You heard. He was cut off when the blonde werewolf dashed forward and brought his foot up with surprisingly vicious force, right between Sasuke's legs. The fangirl screamed, and every guy around cringed. Sasuke let out a gurgle as he slowly went cross-eyed and sank to the ground in a heap. Ouch! Naruto, was that really necessary? Shino asked. Even he was wincing a bit. I doubt even he deserved that. Iruka sighed. I'll take him to the nurse's office. Everyone just sit tight until I get back. He dragged the still curled up Uchiha off. After a few moments, the fangirl shock faded and they immediately gave dark looks towards Naruto. You baka! How dare you hit Sasuke-kun? One of them screeched at him. You should have forfeited if you knew what was good for you. Shut it. He roared at her, making her jump back. The team crossed the line, and you do not. Cross the line with Naruto Uzumaki. Got it. Students quickly moved aside as he walked over to a bench. Later that day after school, Naruto was heading to Ichiraka Ramen for lunch. He had managed to settle down a bit from the match, but he was still ticked that Sasuke would go that low. Calm down, kid. It's in the past now. Although I will admit, the Uchiha's expression was kind of funny. Yeah, but still. As the two talked, Yujito was racing in his direction. Are you sure they're this way, Nibby? She asked defiantly, kitten. I'd bet both tails on it. By now, Nibby was hopping around like Kid the night before Christmas. She could barely wait to see Kyuubi again. Unfortunately, all four were too busy talking to watch where they were going. Wham! Itai! Both yelled as they were sent sprawling to the ground. Hey, why don't you want where you're going? In the seals, a different reaction was had. Kyukulin. And Nibby-chan? Nibby? Who the heck are you talking about, Fox? Naruto rubbed his sore nose. That girl. She carries the two-tailed cat, Nibby no Nakomata. She kinda has a thing for her. Me, come again. That's him. That's my Foxy Kuin's container. Nibby squealed gleefully, Yujito took a look at who bumped into her and nearly went bug-eyed at what she saw. F. Freurs, Teokawai. Came her thoughts as she stared at the fur-clad boy in front of him. Nibby giggled. That's Kyuubi's container, and it seems you're taken with him as well. And Nanny? No way. She protested, blushing profusely as she did. So what if he's cute and fuzzy? Wait, why is he fuzzy? Wait, are you saying you and this Nibby dated? It was more like a couple of friends just doing stuff until I got put in you. Speaking of that, you've never told me why you attacked in the first place. Well, I kinda had a bit of ego. Being called strongest of the tailed beasts will do that to a guy. Especially since I'm still in my mid-teens by our standards, even though I've been around a few thousand years. When I found out Konoha was considered the strongest shinobi village, I thought I could take them. Wait, you attacked because you were a cocky teenager? Baka Kitsune. I paid for it, okay? I got all 9 of my tails handed to me by one human. Granted, he was pretty damn tough, but he was still human. Fine, but how come you didn't tell me she was in the village? I've tackled him so many times, I guess hiding my chakra from him has become habit. Okay, so, do we tell him? Duh, hurry up and do it. By now, Kyukuin's told him about me. All right, keep your fur on. Yujito dusted herself off as Naruto did the same. So, you carry. Kyuubi, she was trying her hardest not to tackle him. Naruto's face shot up. And you have Nibby, right? She nodded. Name's Yujito ni. Nibby's kinda excited right now. Naruto Uzumaki. Yeah, Kyuubi told me about her. After a second, he realized he had walked into her while he was talking to the fox. Sorry about earlier. HM? Oh, I wasn't watching either. Well, I better get going. I gotta be somewhere. In his anger at Sasuke, He had almost forgotten to go to the Hyugas. Want some company? The urge to touch his fur was getting harder to resist, and Nibby was insistent about staying with Kyubi. I guess. Dunno what kind of reaction you'll get, though, he replied, starting off towards the Hyuga compound with her in tow. Along the way, Yujito found out he was a werewolf. Although it unnerved her a bit at first, the kawaii factor overruled the feeling fast. Naruto learned she was brought here Kyumo and mentioned some. From there, tried to get away with a kidnapping in Konoha, but got stopped. He left out that he did it, since he didn't think it was all that important. All the while he saw her act like she was thinking of touching his ears. Finally, he gave in and gave her the okay, something she didn't need said a second time, and stayed like that the remainder of the walk. Hinamori Hyuga paced around anxiously. Hayashi, are you sure he's coming? Dear, Hinata asked him herself. Just relax. I'm sure he'll be here shortly. He grinned when there was a knock at the door, see? Naruto and Yujito were let in by a maid, both looking a tad uneasy. Hinata, when she saw the blonde girl holding onto his arms, suddenly developed a twitch over her eye that Naruto and Kyubi noticed. Kyubi, did she just... Yes, she did, Kit. Something tells me you might want to keep on your toes here. Naruto Uzumaki? Hinamori asked, stepping up to him. Yeah. He barely had time to finish his response when he found himself in a bear hug courtesy of the woman. Well, thank you so much. If it hadn't been for you, my daughter would have. She didn't bother finish and tighten the hug. Wait, he stopped the guy. You didn't say anything about that. Yujito said, I didn't think it was a big deal. Came his reply. You told her. Hayashi asked, raising an eye. Naruto gasped for air after finally being let go. She said she was from Kyumo, and it reminded me. Hayashi thought to himself for a moment. She couldn't be the peace offering the Reikage sent, could she? Then again, given the current one's attitude, I wouldn't put it past him. I'll take to Sarutobi about this. He mused before focusing back to the two. I believe you two are just in time for dinner. Cool, I'm getting kinda hungry. Naruto soon regretted that statement when he found himself sitting between the two girls. Well, it seems we have some competition for our little foxwolf. Nibby chuckled. What do you mean, our? Oh, come now, Yugi. You're liking the boy, admit it. He carries a tailed beast like you, so it's safe to assume he's had the same treatment you did in Kyumo. You have something in common in that regard, though it looks like he's not letting it get to him. Besides, he's got attitude, can't deny that. Well, I'll admit he's a little cute for a kid. A little? Girl, my gut's telling me that'll be an understatement in a few years. As dinner came, the Hyugas and Yujito quickly learned Naruto didn't just look like a wolf. He could eat like one too. I burn a lot of calories training, was his reason for scarfing down almost a full roast. What he didn't see were the two girls starting to try and stare each other down through the remainder of the meal, although the adults did, much to Hinamori's amusement. Back in Kyumo, everyone was trying to calm down a thoroughly pissed off Reikage who was stomping around and screaming obscenities at everyone in range. The cause of his tantrum, a scroll that just arrived from Konoha by bird. He had opened it, assuming it was a demand to take the girl back. Instead, it was a photo of Sarutobi giving the middle finger and the words, "Nice try, jackass," written below. Sarutobi, you son of a bitch. The Reikage screamed to the heavens. Naruto, a group of Chunins screamed as they chased the blonde across the rooftops of Konoha. However, the chase had gone on for close to 2 hours and they were starting to get winded. Naruto, on the other hand, was still going strong thanks to his unreal stamina and the taijutsu he still practiced with Lee and Guy when the three had time to meet up. Come back here, Uzumaki. You're not getting away this time. As for why they were after him, the boy had been caught painting the Hokage monument as a prank, although he was already finished when that happened. As time went on, Naruto had developed a taste for practical jokes. Mostly it was on people he felt needed a bit of embarrassing to take them down a peg or two, though every now and then it was full-scale ones like this, just to keep the village on its toes. Come on, guys. Don't tell you're giving up already. Naruto laughed as he sped up, leaving them behind. It wasn't long before he lost them, and he took a moment to admire his work from a distance. All four faces now were blushing with perverted grins on their faces. The third and first even had nosebleeds, the sight of which sent him into a fit of laughter. That is until he felt a presence behind him. "You really did it this time, Naruto," came the voice of Irika as he grabbed hold of the blonde's collar. "Oh, hey, Irika-sensei," he said sheepishly. Irika gave him an exasperated look. "You know you're going to be washing the monument off after school. That and detention for sneaking out." "I know. It was still worth it," he said as the Chunin dragged him off back to class. 7 years had passed since he first attended the academy, and a fair bit had changed since then. Ever since Naruto nearly castrated Sasuke, Sakura had grown to dislike the young werewolf because of that, and unfortunately became highly loyal to the brooding boy. Ino was rather angry with him for a while for it, but was able to realize that Sasuke brought it on himself with the insult. Hinata, even though she was a tad smaller than most of the girls in class, had made up for it with a confident attitude similar to her mother and the skills to back it up. She was one of Naruto's closer friends, although she would drop hints that she hoped to become more than that. However, this meant she routinely butted heads with Yujito and Hana, who had also become enamored with him over the last few years due to his never-say-die attitude and somewhat rowdy disposition. On the negative, a few months after the attempt to kidnap her failed, another try was made. It was quickly stopped, but Hisashi, the head of the Hyuga's branch family and Hayashi's brother, died in the fight from a poisoned shuriken. He left behind a son, Niji, who was quick to place the blame for his father's death on Hinata for getting kidnapped in the first place. This soon turned into a hatred for the entire main house. As for those two, Yujito enrolled in the academy shortly after arriving in Konoha. Since she had already undergone some training prior to her arrival, she was able to graduate along with Hana. They both became Chunin shortly after and took up working with Sum at her veterinary office. They had also become somewhat good friends with recently appointed Jounin Anko Mitarashi and Kurenai Yuhi, even though they would sometimes argue with each other over the blonde. The quartet soon became known as the Pervert's Bane. Shino, Shikamaru, Chuji, and Kiba more or less remained the same, though Shikamaru had developed a fondness for playing Shugi, and Kiba, like every Inuzuka, had gotten his own canine partner named Akamaru. The pooch was scared half to death of Naruto in the beginning, but soon grew accustomed to the furry shinobi in training. And Sasuke still remained an angst-riddled brooder. In Naruto's case, change was somewhat drastic. He was only 13 now, but his werewolf blood had him standing almost eye to eye with Irika. Not sure how tall Irika is supposed to be, though. That combined with his waist-length gold hair left several girls wondering what he would look like underneath his fur, namely the fan club he was reluctant to admit he had gained. Later that day, Irika was keeping watch as Naruto scrubbed down the stone faces. Thanks to his wolf senses, Naruto could tell the man didn't harbor any ill will toward him, so he was able to let his guard down a bit. "I don't get it, Naruto. You get moderately decent grades in class. The only person I'm aware of you having problems with is Sasuke, and from what I've seen, several girls seem to like you. So, when the world possesses you to do stuff like this?" Naruto shrugged. "Well, normally I just prank stuck-up jerks who deserve it. Sometimes I just like keeping everyone guessing." He let out a sigh, and, "Well, I guess you heard about what happened when I was 5, right?" Irika frowned. People still talked about that day. More than once, he had heard that some had tried to get revenge for his fighting back, or just to punish the boy again for what he carried. He had ended up in the hospital more than once from being outnumbered, but he never went alone. They seemed to forget that in a way, Naruto was part animal now, and a cornered animal was dangerous. I guess, in a way, it's kind of also my way of just blowing off steam from the crap I still have to deal with. He went back to scrubbing for a bit until Irika spoke back up. "Tell you what, we'll hit Ichiraku when you're finished. What do you say?" A grin appeared on the werewolf's face. "You're on," he responded, scrubbing harder. The sun had set after he was finished, and the two were soon at the stand polishing off the bowls in front of them. "Say, Naruto, I've been wondering, why do you want to become a ninja?" "Why?" "In a nutshell, I guess mainly because I want to show everyone I'm more than just what they see. That I'm more than just a werewolf, you know? Meanwhile, in the seal, Kyubi was studying the wolf statue like he had been the last few years. Since it represented Naruto's wolf side, he was sure it could tell him why the kit couldn't change back. Come on, there's got to be something here. He muttered, using his tails to try and feel out anything that could give him an answer. Suddenly, he felt something, and he couldn't help but smirk. I'll be damned. Why the hell didn't I notice that before? Naruto and Irika had just finished and were heading their separate ways when Kyubi started yelling, "Kit, I figured it out." God, damn it, Fox, don't do that. I nearly jumped out of my fur. Never mind that. Listen, I finally figured out why you can't revert back to human form. Well, what is it? Hurry up and get to the woods. I'll tell you once you get there. We got a busy night ahead. Okay. Keep your tails on, he muttered as he jogged to the edge of town. Anyone still awake later that night claimed to hear a baleful howl echoing from the forest. The next day, an announcement was made that sent a chill down Naruto's spine. Exams. It wasn't the exam itself he hated, it was what was called for. He had already failed twice before because the exam had them perform all 3 Academy Jutsus, including the clone jutsu. He hated that technique since he could never get it right regardless of how often he practiced. Kyubi had warned him his higher than normal chakra reserves would require more control and thus make it harder to perform some jutsus, but he hadn't expected it to be just about impossible for such a basic one. The transformation and substitution jutsus took him nearly a year to get right, but he had yet to make a clone that didn't look like an anemic training dummy. This time, it was worse Baku's, it was the finals. This one would decide who graduated. The students entered the back room one by one, as Irika called them. Naruto's sweat dropped when a smug-looking Sasuke came out to the cheers of his fangirls the moment they saw him, with a headband on. The blonde was beginning to swear under his breath, with he felt something settle on his cheek. A quick glance over revealed Hinata, leaning over and giving him a quick peck. "Good luck, Naruto-kun," she said, blushing brightly. He gave a silent thanks to Kami that his own was hidden by the fur. "Thanks, Hina." "Uzumaki, Naruto," came Irika's voice from the door. Naruto took a deep breath and went in, ignoring the whispered jeers from the Uchiha's fan corner. His eyes narrowed slightly when they landed on the face of Mizuki, one of Irika's fellow Chunin. Instructors. He acted friendly, but Kyubi and Naruto's senses told him there was something about the man that wasn't to be trusted. At the moment, however, he would have to put that aside if he hoped to pass. Transforming and subbing went off without a hitch. When Mizuki asked him to create a clone, he did his best to relax and took a deep breath to clear his head. "Okay, Naruto. 3rd time's the charm, right? Please let this work. Clone jutsu," he called out, enveloping himself in a cloud of smoke. When it cleared, he quickly looked over and blanched. His clone was bone white and laying in a heap like a rag doll. "I'm sorry, Naruto, but you fail," came the most dreaded words the werewolf had ever heard from Irika's mouth. When class let out, Naruto sat slumped against a tree in the schoolyard watching parents congratulate and fawn over their kids. "Is that? Yeah, I heard he failed. Serve him right. Can you imagine if they made that a ninja?" He glanced at the pair, trash-talking him, and bared his fangs in a snarl to shut them up. It was then. He caught wind of someone in the tree above him. "You really want to become a shinobi, don't you, Naruto?" Mizuki piped up as he hopped down. To put mildly, came a reply. For a moment, Naruto swore he saw a malicious glint in the man's eyes. "Keep your eyes on this team, kid. He's got something up his sleeve," growled Kyubi. "I'm not really supposed to tell this to anyone, but there's another way for you to become a genin. Have you ever heard of the Forbidden Scroll?" "Irika, quick, get up," a Jounin yelled as he banged on the instructor's door, rousing the man from a peaceful nap. "It's Naruto. He's stolen the Forbidden Scroll." "Say what?" Irika yelped. In the woods, Naruto located a clearing where he could take a breather and check the scroll out. He was surprised and slightly disappointed at how easy it had been for him to get in and take it. Granted, he had a pretty good sense of stealth from setting up all his pranks but this was the Hokage Tower. He decided to tell the old man after he brought the scroll back. You know, there's something fishy as to why he would tell you, and not everyone's little Prince Uchiha, right? The fox commented, giving a disdainful sniff at the name. I know, but if there is something in here that'll help me get Irika-sensei to change his mind, then it won't be a total waste of time. With those words, he opened the scroll and looked at the first jutsu. He saw Shadow Clone Jutsu? Oh man, not clones again. I stink at that. Kit, wait. This'll be just right for you. What part of I stink at clones did you miss? Just trust me. I may be a fox, but I know a thing or two about shinobi arts. Naruto sighed. Fine, but you better be right about this. Unbeknownst to him, however, Irika was heading his way and fast. Naruto, what the hell were you thinking? Swiping the forbidden scroll. The Chunin yelled as he landed behind the boy. It took him a couple hours of searching, but he had managed to locate him before the other Chunins and Jounins the Hokage had sent. Oh, hey, Irika-sensei. I see you caught me again. Naruto chuckled. He was sweating up a storm and had removed his shirt. What surprised Irika was the boy wasn't acting like a caught thief. I only had time to learn one jutsu from the scroll, but it should be enough to show I have what it takes to make Genin, so you'll pass me. All this time he's been studying? Wait, what are you talking about? Irika asked, now confused. Mizuki-sensei told me the jutsus in this scroll are a guaranteed graduation if you can just learn one. Naruto said, still catching his breath. Why would Mizuki tell? Irika was cut from his thoughts by the familiar sound of shuriken whizzing through the air. He looked in time to see a giant, one spinning towards them. Naruto, look out, he yelled, diving in front of him. Naruto, on the other hand, saw it coming as well and yanked his teacher out of the way, letting the weapon bury itself in the ground. He frowned at the smell on it. Mizuki, you little bastard. I had a feeling you were up to something. Guess this cinches it. Looks like he was just too big a chicken to try for it himself. Impressive reflexes, Naruto. Mizuki called out from a nearby tree. He was clad in full combat gear and had a second shuriken strapped to his back. Now be a good boy and give me that scroll. Don't listen to him, Naruto. He just wanted me to get it for him. The blonde deadpanned. Yeah, I kind of guessed that after he threw that shuriken at me. To be honest, I never really did trust the guy very much. Irika just stared. Then why? Naruto grinned sheepishly. Well, a scroll like that was bound to have at least one jutsu that would convince you to rethink my exam grade. Mizuki scowled as he watched the scene below him. It is time to fight dirty. Well, I guess there's no point in hiding it now. He smirked as the two looked his way. You know why everyone hates you, Naruto? Why they all call you names and attack you. The other Chunin paled. He knew what Mizuki was doing. Stop, Mizuki. It's forbidden. The man ignored him and jumped down. They say that the fourth Hokage destroyed the Kyuubi no Kitsune 13 years ago. But that's a lie. The beast couldn't be destroyed, so he sealed it away in a newborn baby. Mizuki, don't. That baby was you, Naruto. You are the Kyuubi. He yelled gleefully, expecting the boy to react in shock or fear. Instead, all he received was a stare. And was a young werewolf's reaction. Both Mizuki and Irika blinked at this. What, and? Didn't you hear me? I just told you why you're hated. And I'm still waiting for you to get to the point. Naruto chuckled. You turd. I've known about Kyuubi for years. Although, you're only half right. I carry the Kyuubi no Kitsune. There's a difference. And FYI, Mizuki-sensei, he doesn't like you all that much, Mizuki blanched. This wasn't what he had planned. The boy was supposed to go in denial, or let his anger get the best of him, so it would convince Irika to help kill him. And here's something interesting. Kyuubi's the one who found out why I can't go turn back from my werewolf state. Wait, the Kyuubi told you why? Irika's head was starting to swim. Yep. Naruto's grin began to take a feral appearance. You see, it turns out that all this time, as he talked, both Chunins watched in a mix of horror and fascination as his body started to grow and become more muscular, the fur gradually becoming sleeker and thicker. His mouth began elongating into a muzzle. The silver in his eyes took over and made them both one solid color. His claws lengthened and his canines extended into fangs. All this time, I've only been transformed halfway. When he finished speaking, where Naruto was now stood a large bipedal wolf, its midnight black fur shimmering slightly in the moonlight, though it still carried the blonde mane. The creature stood nearly 7 feet tall, with a pair of 3-inch-long fangs jutting out from its mouth. Its solid silver eyes focused themselves on a shaking Mizuki. "What's wrong, Mizuki team?" Afraid of an academy student. It taunted as it cracked its knuckles, each one sporting a claw nearly an inch long on the fingertip. "In Naruto," Irika stammered, barely believing what he was seeing. The wolf looked over its shoulder and gave a foxy grin that only Naruto Uzumaki could do. "Hey, Irika-sensei, you want to see the jutsu I learned from Scroll?" he asked, cracking his knuckles and making a cross-shaped seal. Sure, Naruto," the Chunin replied, seeing how scared Mizuki was starting to look, and almost feeling bad for him. "Shadow Clone Jutsu," he roared. In an instant, the clearing was filled with smoke that just as quickly faded to reveal over 100 wolf Narutos. Each one turned to face Mizuki, and they all let out a chilling howl that even made Irika shudder. "They're solid. Naruto, he did it. He learned a Jounin-level technique." Irika thought as all 100 began advancing on the now panicking Mizuki. Before they could get him, though, his eyes rolled to the back of his head, and he toppled over. "A crud. That wasn't any fun," Naruto muttered as his clones vanished, leaving only the original and Irika standing. The blonde shook his head and chuckled as he began shrinking, his fur and muzzle receding in front of the man. In a couple of minutes, the fur was completely gone. Naruto was human-looking once again. He had been changed for so long the height stuck, but human nonetheless. Irika rubbed his eyes to be sure he wasn't seeing things. He had just witnessed the boy transform into a massive Lupin monster and perform an S-ranked Kenjutsu, not to mention more or less defeat a Chunin who had no doubt turned traitor. A faint smile crossed his face as he watched Naruto pick up his shirt and the scroll and walk over him. "Hey, Naruto, close your eyes for a second." He gave his teacher a slightly confused look for a moment, but complied. He soon felt something being tied around his forehead. As soon as Irika gave the okay, he looked to find the man without his headband. "Congratulations, Naruto. You've passed." Seriously, Naruto's eyes widened, and he put Irika into a bear hug the moment he felt the band on his own head. As he did, Irika quickly noticed something and immediately began feeling pity for the boy when they began announcing teams. Kyubi was simply biting onto one of his tails to keep from laughing at the thought. The following morning, Konoha was rudely woken up by the scream of one Naruto Uzumaki when he looked in his bathroom mirror. Not only had he retained the height, but the ears and tail remained as well. "Troublesome women," Shikamaru muttered as he watched Sakura and Ino try to muscle each other out of the doorway. He was more annoyed that their thundering interrupted a perfectly good nap. "Get out of my way, Ino pig. I was here first," Sakura growled, trying her hardest to shove the other girl aside. "In your dreams, forehead," Ino snapped back as she tried to give her an elbow. Before it made contact, however, someone piped up behind them with a voice that sent a chill down their spines. In a good way. As entertaining as this is, could you two let me by before all 3 of us end up late?" They whirled around to see a tall young man standing with his hands in his pockets. The hooded trench coat he had on concealed his identity, but they could see a pair of gleaming silver blue eyes under the hood. They continued to stare until Irika took hold of their shoulders. "All right, you two. Inside," he said, leading them in, along with the hooded stranger. The second he entered, Hinata kicked on her Byakugan reflex and went wide-eyed before clamping down hard on her nose, and Irika had to suppress a chuckle at the girl's reaction. Akamaru sniffed and started barking like mad to Kiba. "Akamaru, what's with you?" Kiba asked as the dog continued to go at it. What do you mean that's Naruto?" The figure sighed. "Blabbermouth," he muttered. When he saw Hinata's reaction, he knew the jig was up and took off his coat. It took the others a moment before they finally spotted the familiar black ears and tail, along with his waist-long hair. I figured out how to finally change back. Naruto came this startled yell from everyone except Hinata, who was now bright red and holding her nose even harder. They could barely believe their eyes. The blonde was still as close to Irika's height as he had been, but his fur was now gone. In its place was a face that caused a fair number of blushes to show up, the black whisker marks once again visible. He was still barefoot, but now he had on a pair of wraps around them guy, had given him along with a basic pair of shinobi pants and vest with a short sleeve shirt under it. He was also wearing a pair of thick, black fighting gloves that extended to his elbows. What no one could see, however, was that like all his previous clothing, this new outfit was weighted. Cool, they're not glomping me this time. He mused, thinking things might be better for him now. Kyubi chortled, don't count on it, kid. They simply thought you were cute and furry before. The comment was, to Naruto's dismay, confirmed when he stepped past Ino and heard her say in a somewhat squeaky voice, H hot, while Sakura was doing her hardest to pretend he wasn't there and stared at Sasuke like mad. Several other girls were following in suit. Some were drooling like idiots. He gulped slightly and tried to shake it off, taking his usual seat beside a still scarlet Hinata. She had managed to finally stem the nosebleed that tried to issue forth after she saw underneath his shirt. She knew he trained with weights, but not that much. All of you sit down so I can assign you to your genin teams. Irika gave them a moment before checking his clipboard and ticking off names. Team 7. Sasuke Uchiha. Sakura Haruno. Cha! True love conquers all. The pink-haired Kunoichi belted out, sticking her tongue out at the fangirls scowling at her. And Irika raised his voice to get their attention again. Kiba Inuzuka. Kiba rolled his eyes. He was no fan on the broody boy. Sakura was too busy enjoying her seat beside her crush to notice both boys looked annoyed. Teammate Chuji Akamichi, Ino Yamanaka, and Shikamaru Nara. Ino groaned in annoyance, and Shikamaru simply sighed. Chuji just focused on his munchies. Team 9 is currently still in circulation. Team 10, Shino Aburame, Hinata Hyuga, and Naruto Uzumaki. Shino merely nodded. Hinata, on the other hand, was fighting the urge to squeal in excitement at being teamed up with her own crush. Naruto was a mix of being glad he wasn't teamed up with Emo Boy, as he called Sasuke, and almost pitying Kiba. All right, that's everyone. Your instructors will be here momentarily. I want to wish you all luck with your new lives as Konoha Genins, Irika said as he left the room. A few minutes later, the Jounins began arriving. Naruto was a little surprised to see Kurenai and Asuma were two of them. He hadn't expected either to become instructors. For a moment, he could have sworn Kurenai went bug-eyed and blushed slightly when she looked his way. Hinata noticed and twitched slightly. Oh, hell no, she grumbled to herself. It's bad enough I gotta worry about Hana and Yujito. Team 10, follow me, Kurenai said as soon as she composed herself. Naruto, Shino spoke up as the trio left with their instructor. My insects have been acting somewhat odd since you arrived. What do you mean, Shino? Hinata asked. Naruto glanced over at him. They seem curious about you now for some reason. They say your chakra is more beastly than before. The blonde tensed and cursed himself for forgetting how sensitive the Aburame clan's bugs were to chakra. He had wanted to keep his full form a secret until he knew how others would react. Well, I'd have to show you. But not right now, okay? Okay. Very well. Hinata was starting to get pissed. Their Jounin instructor was leading them through the streets of Konoha, and since Naruto had forgotten his coat back at school, just about every girl between 12 and 20 was staring at him. Some seemed innocent enough, mainly giggling and blushing, but quite a few were giving him hungry looks, and she did not like that. The Hyuga heiress wasn't a violent person, but she was going to throw down if any of them tried anything. It took them a while to realize Kurenai was taking them to a dango shop. The three students gave her an odd look. No sense getting to know each other on an empty stomach, was her response. They took a table and made their orders. As they waited, they started telling each other a bit about themselves, like Kurenai's hatred of perverts and the book A Certain Silver-Haired Jounin always has, Shino's dream to follow in his father's footsteps as an honorable clan leader, Naruto's hobbies of training and hunting. He is partially a wolf, after all, and Hinata's dislike of her clan's elders and the sidelong glance she gave Naruto while discussing her likes. Kurenai polished off her last dumpling and smiled at her group. That wasn't too bad. All right, I suggest you get some rest. Your final exam is tomorrow. But we already took the finals in class, Naruto said. Actually, that test was just a qualifier. The real one will show whether or not you have what it really takes to be shinobi. She got up to pay the tab. Meet at training ground 4 tomorrow at 7 a.m. sharp. And no latecomers, got it. The trio quickly nodded. They all had a feeling tomorrow was going to keep them on their toes. The next morning, Kurenai met up with the 3 genins at the training area, a moderately sized clearing out in the woods. When they arrived, she procured a small clock and began to wind it. Your task will be to locate and attempt to capture me before this timer goes off. You'll have 2 hours, starting now. With that, she vanished in a puff of smoke. Well, we better get in gear. She's probably going to try and mess with our heads while we hunt for her. Naruto muttered. Kurenai specializes in genjutsu. She caught a guy trying to peek in the bathhouse one time and hit him with an illusion that made him think his clothes were trying to eat him. Hinata raised her eyes at the very idea. She wouldn't use something like that on us, would she? I doubt it. She reserves her nastiest stuff for people who have it coming. She'll more than likely just use ones to stall us. He replied, either way, we better get going. Shino, can genjutsu affect your bugs? No, insect minds aren't quite as complex as most creatures. The Aburame said, quickly catching on and sending out some into the woods. Meanwhile, Hinata was using her Byakugan to keep watch, and Naruto kept his ears and nose open for anything. After a few slightly uneasy minutes, a handful of the insects came back and the team headed off in the direction they gave Shino. They moved as fast as they could without making noise, hoping to get as close as they could before the Jounin decided to make her move. Hinata noticed the blonde was constantly darting his eyes around in a somewhat nervous manner. Naruto-kun, are you okay? You're acting kinda jittery. Well, to be honest, Hina, I'm not real good with genjutsus. They're my biggest weakness. He answered, getting looks from both of them. Just couldn't get the hang of it. The only way I can get out of one is physical injury. That's why I'm hoping we can get to her first. You're forgetting I'm here, kid. Came QB's voice in his mind. You might not be too big on using my power, but that doesn't mean I won't be watching your back. I know. It still makes me a little uneasy, though. He was cut off when Shino nudged him and subtly pointed up towards a nearby tree. All 3 looked to see Kurenai crouched up on a branch. Any thoughts of beating her to the punch were imminently extinguished. When she suddenly spun around and grinned at them, going through seals as she did. She was expecting us, Shino said, watching her fade away. The next 60 minutes would come to be the weirdest damn hour ever for the Genin team. Thanks to the Genjutsu mistress' sense of humor, Shino found himself conversing with a 3-foot-tall stag beetle. Hinata nearly passed out when she thought she saw Naruto pulling off his shirt, and the werewolf was clinging to a branch in an attempt to get away from the horde of screaming fangirls he was seeing. Kurenai was in pain from holding back her laughter at the sight. Kit, snap out of it. QB yelled in an attempt to get the blonde to realize what was happening. You were in one of her illusions, damn it. Wah, QB, not expecting the yell, Naruto lost his hold on the branch and fell to the ground with a loud thud. Fortunately, it was only a few feet. Ow, think I landed on a rock. He sat up and blinked in confusion. They're gone. Kit, they were never there anyway. That woman got all 3 of you. Oh man, and using fangirls? That's just plain low. He looked over to see Hinata staring dreamily at a tree and Shino talking to. Well, nothing. Okay, she brought this on herself. He summoned up a shadow clone to wake Hinata when he got Shino. It took them a few minutes to get them out of the Jinjutsus, but all three were soon free and glaring at Kurenai with annoyance. "Get her!" Naruto shouted as he led the charge. What occurred next could only be described as a mass of blurs ricocheting off the trees. However, before they could get to the Jounin, the timer finally went off. Saved by the bell. Kurenai thought, slightly winded. The trio had given her a run for her money. "Well, you didn't complete the objective, but that doesn't mean you failed." "What do you mean?" Hinata asked, still a little irked at the illusion that had been used on her. The Jounin chuckled. "The real test was to see if you could work as a team, and I'm pleased to say that you three did just that." "Wait, are you saying what I think you are?" Naruto's ears perked up. "Exactly. I'm happy to say that Team 10 passes. We'll begin our first mission early tomorrow morning." Shino stifled a chuckle as Naruto hooped and put Hinata in a hug, much to the girl's surprise and delight. Back at his apartment, Naruto had begun trying to take inventory of all his remaining gear when he found a couple of empty storage scrolls under his bed. "Forgot I had these." He remembered Asuma getting them for him when he was 9, but he never learned how to use them. "Kit, now that you've achieved your first goal, I believe it's time I had a hand in your training, and those scrolls will be perfect for what I'm going to start you off in. You're going to teach me to use a storage seal?" "To start with. I also selected a few jutsus from the Forbidden Scroll while you were learning shadow clones. I will warn you, though, the training I plan to have you do will put a high strain on your chakra and be painful at the beginning." "I'm no stranger to pain, Fox. Remember?" "True. So, do you think you can handle it?" "Hey, you're on, Fox. When do we start?" "Right now." Naruto sat panting. His head was pulsing from so many shadow clones dispelling at one time. He had set close to 50 working on tree and water walking, balancing on kunai, and levitating them. When they vanished after completing the task, the sudden influx of info sent him reeling. "Oh yeah, that's something you should really watch out for. Too many going at once will really mess you up." QB commented. "Really? Gee, thanks for the warning." Naruto muttered sarcastically. The two got along, but the fox could still be twisted at times. "Anyway, you better get going. You still have to see the old man about those kunai and find yourself a weapon to work with. Once you do that, we get down to the nitty-gritty." "Finally," the blonde said before darting off to down, "I think I know just the place. Lee mentioned it one time. Said one of his teammates gets a discount." Before long, he was soon in an older part of town. Most of the buildings they're showing their age. A few looked slightly dilapidated. He wandered around until he found a small building with a sigh saying Higurashi Arms over the door. "This looks like the place," he said, going in. He was greeted by an impressive and somewhat intimidating sight. Weapons filled the place. Shelves, boxes, axes, swords, even warhammers and spears were mounted on the walls. "Damn, I've seen people who enjoy weapons, but this takes the rice ball." Naruto could as he wandered around. He ran his hand over a pair of fantons and checked out a kodiachi before moving on. As he looked, he examined several weapons until he rounded a sword rack and saw IT. "Whoa," was all he could say. Hanging on the wall in front of him was a huge greatsword. From tip to tip, it was 6 feet long with a 4-foot long, 1-foot wide blade and gleamed almost pure white. The tip was curved like a popsicle stick, making one continuous edge around the entire blade. The handle was a simple rod wrapped in leather with a spherical pommel capping the end. Naruto was nearly mesmerized by the weapon and reached out to pick it up. "I see that one's caught your eye." A voice nearby jostled him from his trance. He looked over to see a heavily scarred man in his late 30s standing behind the counter that Naruto assumed was Higurashi. "I wouldn't really bother if I was you. That thing's pretty damn heavy. The only one I've seen able to lift it is my guy, but he never wanted it." A smirk crossed Naruto's lips as he took hold of the handle. "I'll take that as a challenge." With a hefty lift, he pulled it off the mounting hooks, much to the man's shock. He had to admit the guy wasn't joking when he said it was heavy. As soon as it was off the hooks, he was forced to grip it with both hands, but he was holding it. I gotta admit, impressive choice, kid, QB remarked. Holy crap, the man whispered. When Naruto rested the blade on his shoulder and turned to face him, he saw the whisker marks. Well, Naruto Uzumaki. He grinned at the blonde's reaction. Yeah, I've heard of you. Well, I guess you know about my circumstances. Then, he said, setting a hand on his stomach. He didn't sense any ill will from the man, but he still stayed alert in case something did happen. Higurashi raised an eye. So you know? A nod was his only answer. To be honest, I kind of pity the ignorant bastards that seem to think you really are the fox. Hell, if you were, then this place would have been leveled years ago thanks to enough of that. I gotta say you surprised me, son. That's one of the first weapons I got when I first opened this shop. It was supposedly made in Whirlpool Country. Never found out the name of it though, but my daughter decided to christen it Silver Fawn. Naruto's eyes widened at that bit of info. This sword came from the same place as Mom? How much do you want for it? Higurashi chuckled. Hell, you're the only guy that's managed to lift and want the thing. You can have it. To be honest, people who wanted it just wanted to make a decoration out of it. Higurashis only sell weapons for use. Cool. He started admiring the blade again. Got a scabbard or sheath I can put this in? Higurashi rubbed his chin for a moment. Nothing big enough for that, but I think I can work something out. Let me have that vest of yours real quick. Naruto gave him a puzzled look for a second before shrugging and handing it over. As soon as he had hold of it, he nearly doubled over from the weight. Damn, son. What's in this thing? I train a lot with weights. Naruto chuckled at the man's expression. Cammy, you're as bad as my daughter's teammate. You mean Rock Lee? Guess that explains things. That's the one. I still say he and Guy gotta be related somehow. Higurashi lugged the vest into the back, and Naruto set the sword up on the counter and decided to restock on supplies while he waited. He grabbed up a few extra kunai and explosive tags when he heard the man coming back out and a loud thump on the counter. He grinned when he came back to see that a holster had been attached to the vest so he could just fasten the sword into it. After insisting he had at least pay for that, Naruto took his new weapon and headed to his next destination, the Hokage Tower for his father's Hiraishin kunai. Sarutobi was pleasantly surprised when the blonde came into his office asking about the technique, much less wanting to learn it. After a brief and rather colorful argument with Hamura, the Hokage handed over a scroll belonging to Minato containing a set of the required kunai along with instructions for them. The next few months quickly became some of the busiest in Naruto's life. Thankfully, Kyuubi had gotten him used to the idea of multitasking. While he worked with his taijutsu and on getting used to the silver fang size and weight, a small army of shadow clones would be fine-tuning his chakra control, practicing sealing items into scrolls and jutsus that the fox would select, even working on catching thrown weapons. In between, he would work on the Hiraishin, although for now all he could get was little more than a foot or two. Fortunately, things to improve when his team finally caught him during one of his training sessions. Kurenai and Shino were rather startled at the sheer number of clones he was able to make, though Shino hid his reaction. Hinata, on the other hand, could only think wall-to-wall Narutos. Once they got over the surprise, it didn't take long before they were joining in when they weren't on missions. That looked painful, Naruto commented when Shino's kunai hit his clone square in the face, making it vanish. Kurenai had been called to the Hokage's office, so it was just the three of them. Kit, now's your chance. Get over there and say something to her. You know she likes you. Kyuubi called out, trying to egg his container on. Truth be told, Naruto knew how Hinata felt. He had even grown to find her attractive. The only thing keeping him from acting on it was knowing that the clan's elders hated him with a passion and would probably try to punish him through her if they ever did start dating. You crazy? You know as well as I do what those old geezers might pull. Naruto snapped. Hello, Hayashi Hyuga, her dad. The guy doesn't mind you. Hell, he could probably whoop off their asses. Naruto started to argue when Kurenai appeared in front of them, a determined look on her face. We have a mission. A few days ago, Team 7 was sent to escort a man back to Wave Country. On the way, they were attacked by a pair of Chunin-class missing Nin, then an A-ranked named Zabuza Mamachi. They sent word for backup in case things get ugly, and since the other teams were currently on missions already, Hokage-sama's having us go. I suggest you all get prepared and meet at the main gate. We leave in 30 minutes, she said before vanishing again. A short while later, the three genins arrived at the gate, with Kurenai waiting for them. Naruto could barely hide the grin on his face. His first big mission had finally come. This is Wave. Kurenai and the genins could hardly believe their eyes. It took them a few days to reach the town team 7 were at, but what greeted them was near ruin. The entire place looked to be in poverty. People were wandering the streets begging for anything to spare. Naruto let out a snarl when he saw a little kid rummaging in a trash can, bringing up memories of when he was forced to do that same. What happened to this place? Hinata asked, looking mournfully at the child as well. More like who? And that who is Gato? A weary voice spoke up nearby. They looked over to see an elderly woman who looked pale. Wave's been destitute ever since that thing took over all shipping from the island. He charges whatever he wants, and we can't do a thing to stop it. She sighed. I just hope Tazuna-san can finish that bridge in time. Then we won't need that horrible little troll. Shino looked over. Bridge? You mean the large one we saw on the way here? The woman nodded before looking at their headbands. Konoha ninjas. Huh? Tazuna arrived with a group of you fellas a couple days ago. If I remember, it was a one-eyed man with spiky white hair and his nose buried in a smut book. Kurenai's eye twitched. Kakashi Hitaki. There was a kid with a lil pooch on his head, a girl with pink hair who seemed more interested with. A broody-looking boy that was with them than anything else. Can you tell us where they might be now? Kurenai asked. Well, if they're with Tazuna, then odds are they'll be at his place. The old lady gave them the directions before taking her leave on the way. Hinata saw a look of concern on her sensei's face. What is it? Kurenai furrowed her brow. This Gato character sounds like someone who'd do anything to keep the power he's already acquired. You think he might have sent the missing Nin after Team 7 and Tazuna? Shino asked, getting a nod in response. It's a strong possibility, but we'll have to ask the others to be absolutely sure. The group made their way to where the woman said Tazuna's family lived. Naruto breathed a sigh of relief as he walked, grateful to Kyubi for suggesting he cover up his ears and tail just to be safe. While he still had on his usual attire, he now had a bandana wrapped around his head and his tail under a trench coat. It wasn't long before they found the right place and were greeted by a slightly haggard-looking old man that they guessed was Tazuna. Beside him was a young woman that Tazuna introduced as his daughter, Tsunami. Inside, they saw a white-haired man with his headband covering his left eye and reading a book. From the glare Kurenai was giving him, the genins guessed he was Kakashi. Oh, hey, Kurenai. So the Hokage sent you guys. Kakashi spoke up, never taking the book away. Yeah. Kurenai was trying to keep the annoyance out of her voice. Where are the others? I have them doing chakra exercises right now. I figure that Zabuza will be back within the week after what happened. The one-eyed Nin recounted the incident. The man had attempted to ambush them just before reaching Wave and forced Kakashi to reveal that he had a Sharingan hidden under his headband. The two managed to trade blows for a short, while until Zabuza knocked him into the water and followed up with his water prison jutsu. He then sent a water clone to finish the others. But with a little help from a couple of Kiba's family jutsus, the genins managed to free Kakashi, who promptly took the missing Nin out. Unfortunately, a hunter Nin beat him to the punch and took off with the supposedly dead Zabuza. I didn't put it together until we arrived. If that was a real hunter Nin, he would have destroyed Zabuza's body right then and there, plus he used sunbond needles in the neck. Not a great method to kill, but perfect for faking a death. Well, at least that gives us time to prepare. I doubt he'll be expecting another team when he tries again. She motioned for the three to head out. How about you guys go get some training in? Things are going to be a little quiet for now, at least. As they left, they suddenly heard, Kakashi Hitaki. What the hell did I say about reading that garbage around me? Followed by a loud whap and a yelp of pain. Sasuke glared at the tree as if he wished it would burst into flames. A couple of days ago, Kakashi had set them to the task of climbing without using their hands, giving them kunais to mark their progress as they went up. Sakura had managed on her first try. Due to her low reserves, the control she had was far better than him or Kiba, although Kiba was slowly getting up further than him. He rolled his eyes when Sakura Segan yelling at Kiba for going past him. "Will you put a cork in it, Sakura?" Kakashi-sensei just said to reach the top. He didn't say squat about a race. "Admit it, Kiba. You're just trying to show up, Sasuke-kun." "Geez, will you two cool it?" They could have heard you halfway back to Konoha. Naruto muttered as he, Hinata, and Shino came out from around a shrub, a finger in his ear. Sasuke scowled at the sight of him. "What are you doing here, Dobe?" "The Hokage sent us to provide assistance due to this Zabuza person." Shino spoke up, grabbing Naruto's arm to stop him from giving the rude gesture he knew the blonde was about to use. "At least they sent somebody sociable." Kiba muttered, "I'm actually surprised we managed to pass the test thanks to Mr. I Don't Need a Team and his fangirl. Me and Akamaru are lucky if we hear anything besides Pinky yelling Sasuke-kun a dozen times a day." That remark earned him a bit of killing intent from his teammates and a stifled snicker from Naruto. "So, is he doing tree climbing?" Hinata looked up at the marks midway up two of the trees. Like you three could even make it a few steps," Sasuke snapped haughtily. "If it's taken me this long to do it, you losers will never even stick." His ego stroking vanished when Team 8 began marching single file up Kiba's tree in response. Like Naruto, Hinata, and Shino weren't really fond of the Uchiha. Kiba stared up at them before roaring with laughter at the twitch Sasuke had developed. "Thanks, guys. I ain't laughed this hard in weeks." Kurenai-sensei had us do a lot of training in our spare time. Naruto said. In a way it was true, he just left out the part about his hand in it. The Yukika, much to Kiba's entertainment, began to seethe when they revealed they also knew water walking and were currently working on kunai and senbon levitating. "Oh man, that's funny. Sasuke looks like he's going to hemorrhage something." The Inuzuka gasped between peals of laughter. That is, until Sakura punched him in the head. Naruto panted as he raised Silver Fang over his head for the 100th time and began to focus chakra into it. The blade soon began to take on a pale blue hue that slowly grew brighter and brighter. Before long, the blade was burning a bright azure. When that happened, Naruto brought it down as hard as he could. Kenjutsu, a howling edge, a flaming blue crescent rocketed from the tip, howling like a wolf before it slammed into a nearby boulder, coming close to splitting it in half. All around him, rocks, trees, even the ground had identical slashes on gouge marks. It was a chakra technique Kyuubi had shown him similar to one he could use with his own claws. But since Naruto didn't have any big enough, the sword was an effective replacement. As the dust cleared, Naruto collapsed to his knees, a slight wheeze breathing. That technique, even with his reserves, took a fair bit out of him after all the attempts. "Not bad, kid, not bad. It's starting to charge up quicker now." "Yeah, but I'll have to work on that. I'm a setting duck if I have to wait on it." Since their arrival to Wave, Team 8 had agreed to spend some time doing a bit of private training to fine-tune their own styles. Since Kyuubi had a preference for attacking with straight chakra, the two had decided to incorporate the moves he would teach Naruto into his sword work. His oration practice was doing better as well. He could finally appear at the kunai, ready to strike. Next step, doing it in rapid succession like the Hokage said his father was capable of. Every now and then he could pick up the sounds of Hinata or Shino in the distance. That or Team 7 arguing with each other. He took a breath and raised his sword up again. That night, during dinner at Tezuna's, they were once again treated to statements that they were all going to die, courtesy of Inari, Tsunami-san. Tezuna had explained about Inari's surrogate father. Wave had considered him a hero until his was captured and publicly executed by Gato and his thugs. The man firmly believed if something was worth fighting for, then that's what should be done. Naruto felt for the kid losing someone he cared about, but still, why are you even bother? None of you'll stand a chance against Gado's men. Inari yelled, furious that the shinobi all had the nerve to look calm. Naruto rubbed the bridge of his nose. I don't think I can take much more of this. Will you chill out, kid? Aside from his Momochi guy, Gado sounds like he's just got a bunch of 2-bit hoods working for him. I think we'll be fine. What do you know? You're not from here. You idiots don't know anything about what it's like to suffer. Naruto's eyes narrowed. Oh, really? Let me ask you, did the majority of your village make sure pain was all you ever really knew the first 5 years of your life? What? No. Did any of them refer to you as demon or monster? Did any of them say you had no right to live? The other stared as Naruto's face seemed to grow darker. And no. Kid, pain is something I happen to be quite familiar with, so don't ever assume you know me. They all thought he was finished, but the blonde had something else to get off his chest. You know, Dad put his life on the line to try and protect this place, but all I've seen you do is mope around feeling sorry for yourself and acting like Gado's unstoppable. That's a damn sorry way to honor the memory of a guy everyone calls a hero. With those words, the blonde got up and headed for the door. I'm gonna get some more training in. Haku's POV. Haku hummed a quiet tune as she gathered up herbs for Zabuza. She knew how much he wanted a rematch with the one-eyed Jounin. She just wished he'd be a little more patient. His injuries from before were still healing. Plus, they had gotten word that more Konoha shinobi were coming as backup. As she gathered, she noticed something odd with the terrain. At first, it looked like someone had simply struck the trees with kunai or swords. It gradually moved to larger cuts, some going in deep. Before long, they looked as if they had been snapped. Others were simply lopped in two. Several had deep indentions, as if they were struck with a particularly savage blow. Even nearby rocks were cracked or busted. What happened here? She asked herself. Her answer came when she wandered into a small, open area. Her breath caught in her throat when she saw what was there. A massive wolf-like humanoid creature, asleep on the ground. A large, shining white sword was driven into the ground beside it. At first, she considered leaving it be. Then she noticed a leaf. Headband around its neck. Her curiosity aroused, she edged closer. Its fur was jet black, but had a mass of golden yellow hair running down its back. The clothes it had on seemed to call out, I'm a shinobi. What are you? She asked, taking in the sight of the being before her. The creature looked capable of being vicious, but at the same time, it almost looked cute in a way. Normal POV Naruto's nose twitched, catching the scent of herbs and lilac. He knew there was nothing like that in the area when he started training to blow off steam from the boys' comments. That could only mean someone was nearby. He pried his eyes open to see a girl staring at him. A surprisingly cute one, he had to admit. Defiantly on par with Hinata. She looked like she was a couple years older than him. Oh, looks like we got a player, QB joked, seeing what his container was thinking about. Put a shoe in it, Fox. It ain't like that. The moment she caught sight, the two silver eyes looking straight at her, she froze up. Haku had no idea how strong it was, or she could handle it if it did attack. Naruto slowly sat up. Hi, he said, hoping she wasn't about to run screaming into town. Don't worry, I'm not a lecher. I'm Naruto. He mentally berated himself for not changing back before he nodded off. Haku, she replied, finally get her voice back. It didn't take Shikamaru to tell she was frightened. So even though it was a risk, he made a quick decision. There any chance you can keep what I'm about to do a secret? Why? What are you going to do? This. As the girl watched, he began changing back. Within moments, Naruto was in human form again. I'm a werewolf. You might say it's a bloodline, sorta, that didn't quite register with Haku. In her mind, she could only think one thing, Kami. He's gorgeous. That is, until she mentally punched herself. Get a grip. So what if he's attractive? You just met him. Plus, he's from Konoha. Hello. You okay? He waved a hand in her face. After a moment, she quickly shook her head, blushing brightly. Oh, yeah, sorry. He pointed to the basket she was carrying. Running errands? You might say that. I'm making some medicine for a friend. Need a hand? He felt it was the least he'd do for scaring her like that. Haku hesitated. As much as she hated it, she and Zabuza had a job to do, and the Konohanines were there to stop them. They'd be on opposite sides once he recovered. After a moment, she decided, couldn't hurt for now. Okay, it shouldn't take the both of us long to find what I need. With those words, the two started, neither really knowing what would come in the next few days. For as long as he had known her, Zabuza could only describe Haku as quiet. She was never one to stand out much, except when she fought. Even though he first considered her only as a weapon and nothing more, over the years he had actually grown somewhat fond of the ivory-skinned girl, seeing her more like a little sister. Now, however, something about Haku had him scratching his head. Ever since the day before yesterday, when she had gone out to restock her supply of herbs, he couldn't help but notice she seemed to be blushing somewhat. He pointed it out, and she claimed it was just from being outside. Both of them knew it wasn't the truth, but he knew calling her out wouldn't help. And then there was the slight giggle she let out on occasion. Laughing in any way, shape, or form was something he had never seen her done, so it came as a bit surprising when he first heard it. Something had brought about a change in Haku, however so slight, and he wanted to learn what it was. For now, however, he had other things to deal with, namely a man called Kakashi Hitaki and his Genin team. He had a job to do, and they were his primary obstacle. Then plus this new Leaf team Haku mentioned. Tomorrow, he told himself as he crushed an apple in his hand. Tomorrow. Kurenai-sensei, have you seen Naruto? Hinata asked. A tightly bound scroll rested in her hand. A messenger bird from Konoha arrived shortly with a scroll addressed to him. He should be out back with Kakashi. He said something about wanting to check out his sword. She responded. Of course, at that particular moment, Kakashi was more concerned with picking the thing up. Kami, this thing's heavy, he exclaimed, his hands shaking from just trying to keep it off the ground. How the hell can you swing it? Naruto. The blonde laughed. It wasn't easy at first. You wouldn't believe how many times the momentum got the better of me. I'm just glad all the training guy sensei gave me made it go a little faster. The Silopian Jounin nearly dropped the sword when he heard the name. Guy? You train with Mike Guy. Yeah, Asuma introduced him to him, so I'd at least be somewhat on par with the academy students that train with their parents. Can I ask how long? Naruto scratched his head. About 8 years. Give or take a month. Kakashi paled. If he went through the kind of training I think he did. Hoo boy. He was quickly pulled from his thoughts by a loud commotion coming their way. The pair looked to see Hinata come up carrying the scroll with a scowling Sasuke in hot pursuit. I said, give me that scroll, Hyuga. The raven-haired boy ordered. And I said no. She snapped back. Naruto, catch. With a flick of the wrist, she hurled it to him like a kunai. The moment he caught it, the name on it caught his eye. From the Hokage? Why the hell would he send that loser anything? Naruto ignored him and opened it. Inside was a letter with a smaller scroll rolled up inside. Naruto. My secretary found this while sorting through some old files. I was rather surprised it even existed. Neither Minato nor Kushina even told me about it. It probably would have been prudent to wait until you returned to give it to you, but I felt it was best it be in family hands as soon as possible. Anyway, hopefully you can put a good use. Sarutobi. Hinata cocked her head at the scroll. A blood seal? Those are normally used by clans to protect their family techniques. Well, let's see what it says. He gave it the once-over before chuckling sheepishly. How do I open it? You have to rub some of your own blood on the seal. Although it'll only open if a family member was the one to seal it. Without a second thought, the werewolf bit his finger and swiped the bloody digit across the seal. It faintly glowed for a moment before breaking apart, and he unfurled it. Everyone watched while he mumbled something to himself, his hair turning from side to side being the only indicator he was. Reading it, Sasuke fumed and looked ready to snatch it away when the blonde slowly lowered it. Chuckling slightly, and his face twisted into a smoldering grin. What is it in? Naruto, Hinata, fidging a bit. That grin was starting to heat her up. My mom's fighting style, the lunar fist. He replied, the grin intensifying. After several minutes of Team 8 reading the scroll over Naruto's shoulder after learning what the scroll had and Kakashi having to prevent Sasuke from trying to snatch it, again, Naruto managed to get to a quiet area so he could study the scroll better. Who would have thought there'd be a werewolf taijutsu? He chuckled as he read through the style's overview. Somewhat similar to Strong Fist, the Lunar Fist style involved powerhouse strikes. However, it called for the user to put their whole body into the hit to take advantage of the werewolf's strength and speed. A little chakra could be thrown in as well to amplify the strike. Are you going to incorporate it into what you know of the Strong Fist so far? QB asked. Nah, that's Lee's style. He's been working on it a lot harder and longer than I have. Doesn't seem fair if I try to mix and match. With that, he summoned up a clone and had it hold the scroll so he could reference it. Okay, first stance. He mumbled, crackling his knuckles. I can't believe that guy. Kiba muttered to himself as he and Shino zipped up their coats, practicing halfway through the night. That's just damn crazy. True, although this IS Naruto Uzumaki you're talking about. The bug user replied, remembering when the Jounins came in late last night, dragging a wore-out blonde between them. It was decided to just let him sleep while the others went to guard Tazuna and his workers on the bridge. Tsunami promised she'd let him know once he woke up. Hinata glanced back at the room he was sleeping in as they all headed out. She had volunteered to keep him company, but all of them would be needed in case Zabuza had learned about them and brought help himself. Okay, let's get going. Kurenai said, flanking the bridge builder between her and Kakashi as they brought up the rear behind the Genins. A half hour later, Naruto shot up in bed, man. Guess I overdid it. You think? QB responded dryly. You wore yourself out to the point that the others decided to just let you sleep. What? For crying out loud. Why the hell didn't someone wake me up? Cursing to himself, he scrambled to get dressed. No, run Inari. Naruto's ears perked up at the cry coming from outside. Bolting to a window, he saw a pair of grungy-looking swordsmen holding their blades at Tsunami's throat. One looked like he was ready to slaughter for the sheer fun of it, and he was staring at Inari like his necked victim. Leave my mother alone, you slime bags, the boy said defiantly, doing his best to hold his ground against the two thugs. I'm not going to run. Gato's nothing but a bully. Just one slash, come on, the man said, fingering his blade. You make one move towards my son, and I'll bit my tongue off and choke on my blood. I swear it. Gato said he needed a bargaining chip. You idiot. Just grab the brat, and you can kill them both afterwards. Watching those two immediately brought back memories of the man that tried to kidnap Hinata, making Naruto snarl as he began to climb out the window. Kid, you know if it comes down to it, you'll have to... I know. I'd have to kill sooner or later. Just wish it was later. He said before taking a flying leap off the edge of the room. That's it. I can't take it anymore. I gotta kill one of them. The first thug snapped, raising his sword at Tsunami. Don't worry, this'll be. He was cut off when he was driven into the ground from Naruto landing on him. There was a sickening crunch as his ribs snapped under the impact and the blonde's weight. Where the hell did you come from? The other yelled, watching his partner cough up blood before. Going limp. You should be more worried about what I'll be doing to you if you don't back off. Naruto growled, drawing his own blade and pointing it at him. Before he could react, Naruto bolted forward and brought the flat of his sword down hard on the man's head, crumpling him instantly. Mom! The boy rushed over to be sure she was okay, while Naruto tied up the man. He sighed when he checked the other's pulse. The man was dead from the rib shards piercing his lungs and heart. Try as he might, the young boy couldn't keep from breaking into tears. Hey, Inari, Naruto piped up. I think your dad would have been proud of you. Despite his tears, Inari was able to smile. Thanks, Naruto. The blonde gave a quick nod before making his way to the bridge. If those two were sent by that team, Gato then. A feral grin appeared on both the QB's face. Wanna bet we're gonna get our chance to meet this Zabuza character? Naruto's face darkened as he sped up. Something tells me things are going to get real ugly, real fast. Kemi, my men, what happened here? Tazuna cried out when they arrived on the bridge. All the workers lay on the ground, either incapacitated by sunban or awake, but in pain from slash marks on their bodies. Who did all this? I believe I can take the credit. A voice chuckled nearby. Kakashi narrowed his eye as a man welding a massive sword stepped out from behind a stack of girders. Beside him was a smaller masked figure. The Hunter Nin, I presume. I see you've recovered from our last scrap as well, Kakashi. Zabuza said, looking towards Kurenai and the Genins. Kurenai Yuhi, I've heard of you as well. Konoha's Genjutsu mistress. So they sent you to help. A grin formed under his mask. Guess I should consider myself honored. Now, shall we begin? The missing Nin began going through seals, Sutun, hidden mist jutsu. Within seconds, the bridge was covered in a thick mist, and the two quickly vanished into it. Everyone keep together. Hinata, stay close to the Zuna, and keep your eyes open. Kurenai shouted, grabbing a kunai. Zabuza's voice chuckled again from inside the mist. Don't think I know about the mighty Byakugan. It won't help you here. Haku, see to the Gakis. I'll deal with the Jounins. Aye, Zabuza, another voice replied, one that they guessed was Haku's. The shinobi tensed, not sure which way the two would attack. Hinata put all her focus into tracking Haku and Zabuza's chakra, trying to spot them before they could get too close. As she scanned the area, something caught her attention. Another, very familiar, chakra signature was coming from the end of the bridge, and fast. Kurenai sensei, someone's coming this way. Is it one of his? No, I'd know that chakra anywhere. It's Naruto. The second she said it, the other looked in time to see the blonde come charging in. Hey guys, am I in time for the fireworks? Right on time, Naruto, Kurenai said, her eyes darting towards any sound coming from the fog. Who the hell are you? Zabuza demanded. Me? Who the hell are you? Naruto snapped, his ears twitching around to pinpoint the voice. Naruto, that's Zabuza Momochi. He and his partner, Haku, are the reason we called for reinforcements. Kakashi answered, earning a pair of raised eyes from the werewolf. Haku, wait, could that be the same? Naruto began to sniff. Through all the water, he managed to catch the same herb and lilac scent as the girl from the other day. Looks like it is. Guess we're running into each other again sooner than we expected. Haku, he called out. Say what? What does he mean again? Kiba said, getting a shrug from Shino. She hesitated for a second before replying. I regret the circumstances, but I must do this. Naruto-kun. I mean San, she quickly added, grateful that no one could see her flush. Unfortunately, Zabuza caught the suffix. Cohen, wait a sec. The mist dissipated, giving the missing Nin a better look at the new guy. For a moment, he didn't see anything odd about the guy, aside from the marks on his face. At least until he saw the ears and tail draped behind him. His eyes widened briefly. Then Zabuza Momochi, the hidden mist demon, busted out laughing. BHHHA? You're the guy that had Haku blushing? All you're missing is a collar with the name Fido on it. The man grabbed his sides. Hold on, Kurenai said. Naruto, there's something we're not aware of? Naruto's I began to twitch in annoyance at the laughing. Well, I met Haku the morning after I got pissed at Tazuna's grandson. I didn't know she was working with the guy after the old man. He directed the next line straight to the masked man. And for your information, Mr. Nobrow, they're not dog ears, they're wolf. And so's the tail. Unfortunately, that only made the sight even more hysterical to him. Behind her mask, Haku was a mix of embarrassment at how he was acting and trying to subdue the part of her mind that wanted to perform the kawaii squeal at the sight of the fluffy tail. Oh man, Zabuza wiped his eyes. I haven't had a laugh like that in years. It was then he finally saw the sword on Naruto's back. So, a fellow swordsman, huh? I guess you could say that. Naruto drew Silver Fong, glad the man was finally taking him seriously. Zabuza's eyes widened again, earning a glare from the blonde, thinking he was going to laugh at him again. That's a whirlpool sword. Sasuke cocked an eyebrow. What the hell's a whirlpool sword? Aren't you taught anything these days, Gaki? Zabuza said, not believing what he heard. Whirlpool Country was known for the quality of its blades. They had a knack for being rather nasty in trained hands. Whirlpool blades were designed to never pierce, only slice. Hence no corners. He slowly drew his blade and focused intently on Naruto. I've always wanted to test my cleaver against one. Wadai say, no jutsu, just sword versus sword. Naruto, you idiot. Are you trying to get yourself killed? Sakura yelled, Kakashi-sensei. You gotta stop him. He won't last a second against. You want me to go all out? Naruto interrupted, a feral grin on his face. And Naruto, Kakashi said, he's an A-class criminal. I wouldn't have it any other way. They could see him grinning ferally as well through his wrappings. Haku started feeling uneasy. She had no doubt in Zabuza's ability. But judging from the destruction she had seen at Naruto's hands, he wasn't a pushover. Naruto, I know you're good with that sword, but you've never faced an opponent like him. Kurenai yelled, ready to pull him back herself. Before she could, both of them blurred out of sight. Suddenly the air rang with the sound of swords clashing behind the Konoha shinobi. They wheeled around to see the two trading blows several feet behind them. Every now and then they would vanish again, reappearing with their blades throwing off sparks as they collided. I gotta admit, Naruto, was it? I'm impressed. You're not half bad, Zabuza said, ducking under one of the blonde's swings. He had more skill, but the Leaf Nin had reflexes that rivaled his own. Although, I can't really say I approve of the idea of you and Haku. This caught him off guard, and he narrowly avoided a strike that would have took his arm off. Nanny. Don't tell me you haven't noticed. I think she likes you. He snickered when an embarrassed cry of Zabuza came from nearby, as well as a shriek of Nanny. From Hinata. But still, you're what? 23? 24? She's still 16. That's a fair-sized age difference. Naruto raised an eye in confusion before sputtering a laugh. Actually, if she's 16, she's older than I am. He said over the screech of metal. You're fighting a 13-year-old genin. I'm just tall for my age. This time it was the hidden mist demon's turn to be startled as, even though he blocked it, he still staggered for one of Naruto's overhead chops. I'm fighting a kid. Haku was surprised as well. 13? Hey, it's not my fault you assumed I was full grown. He replied, deflecting another attack. Meanwhile, the Jounins noticed Sasuke leaking killing intent at an uncontrolled rate. Sasuke, calm down. There's no point in getting angry right now. Kakashi ordered, if things get out of hand for Naruto, then we'll step in. But right now, we need to just keep on our guard. With that, he resumed watching the fight, not seeing an evil smile form on the Uchiha's face as two Tomo appeared in his left eye and one in his right, an incomplete Sharingan. Zabuza wiped the sweat from his face. This kid was giving him a fight, and he was enjoying it. As he parried one of the blonde strikes, an idea hit him. It was obvious Haku liked the boy, so killing him was out, but that didn't mean he could have some fun. In honesty, he didn't like Gato at all, especially from the way he would keep leering at Haku. Hey, Gaki, how about we up the stakes in this little match? What do you have in mind? If you can beat me, I won't kill the bridge builder. But if I win, I get that sword. Loser's the one that gets knocked off their feet. Before Naruto, or anyone for that matter, could respond, a high cruel laugh mixed with applause came rolling from the other side of the bridge. That was an entertaining performance, Zabuza. I guess you aren't as useless as I thought. The group looked to see a short, ugly little man standing in front of what Kurenai guessed was a couple hundred of his men. You must be Gato, she said, drawing a pair of kunai. Haku scowled behind her mask. You had no intention of paying us, did you, you slime bag? Gato's smile widened. Why pay when I could have killed him after he did his job? But since it looks like he'd rather be playing, it gives me an excuse. You, You're the son of a bitch that those two, after Tsunami and Inari. Naruto growled. Looks like they screwed the job up. No matter, kill them. But leave the women. He licked his lips. It'll be fun to break him. At those words, his men let out a cheer and began to charge them / well, old man. Zabuza stepped up beside Kakashi. Looks like I'm fired, so I'm through going after you. And my beef with you is over as well, Kakashi. Although he chuckles as he turned to Naruto, we still have our match. To finish. His eyes widened at what he saw. Naruto was pissed. He was baring his teeth and snarling like an angry wolf. This little shit had the nerve to state that he and his men were going to rape every girl there. That was something he would not stand for. The blonde let out a howl as he started to change. The howl was enough to make Gato's man stop dead in their tracks. These bastards are going to die. Haku was forced to remove her mask in order to get a better look at what was transpiring. She had already seen his transformed state before, but not in this fashion. It was actually kind of scary to see him like that. The other Konoha Neens looked on in shock and a bit of fear as well at their teammates' fully altered state. The massive wolf snarled at the thugs and drove his sword into the ground. He gave the others a glance. This is my real wolf form. I didn't find out till a few months ago. In Naruto, Hinata said, barely able to keep her voice above a whisper. The wolf gave her a grin. It's okay, Hina. It's still me, just hairier. The Kunoichis, minus Sakura, weren't going to admit it, but Wolf Naruto's voice sent a chill through them. One they liked. If you want them, you bastards, you're going to have to come through me. Naruto growled, taking a few steps forward. What you cowards waiting for? It's 200 against 8. I want them to... Gato's voice caught his throat when Naruto howled again and began running straight towards him, teeth and claws bared. As soon as he did that, Zabuza took off in hot pursuit. Don't think you're going to have all the fun, kid. Needless to say, the end result was a bloody end. For Gato and his men. Sakura paced anxiously around the backyard of Tezuna's house. It had been a few days since the bridge encounter, but it was still fresh in her mind. It shook her to the core at seeing what Naruto did to Gato and his men. Flashback. You're not having all the fun without me, kid. Zabuza hollered as he followed the angry werewolf on a collision course with Gato's small army. As he ran, Sakura noticed his arms moving around. Judging from the speed, it looked like he was going through seals to perform a jutsu. Right on, Arcwave Jutsu, Naruto called out, slamming his hands into the chest of the first thug he reached. The man let out a scream as a bolt of electricity shot out from his back, striking 5 others. All 6 crumpled to the ground, the first with a charred hole going right through his chest. She stared in shock at what he had just done. He took out 6 men with a jutsu she had never heard before and didn't even slow down. She glanced at Sasuke to ask if he knew, but froze when she saw the rage visible on his face, as well as hear him whisper curses at the blonde. Zabuza laughed. You got style, kid, I'll give you that. He proceeded to use his cleaver to cut a swath through them. Half a dozen of Gato's men fell from one swing. The air became filled with screams as the pair plowed their way through Gato's army. Naruto's claws tore into several, and any lucky enough not to have him used on them were subjected to what he knew of the strong fist style. That, combined with his increased strength, managed to bust more than a few skulls. It didn't take him long to hack his way to Gato, who had ran behind his men when the two began their assault. The criminal started to run, but was stopped dead when Naruto grabbed the back of his head and literally hoisted him off the ground. Congratulations, bastard. You're going to be the first and last guy I'm going to use this next move on. He growled before launching Gate into the air with a vicious kick. In no way. Kakashi said to no one in particular, he's not going to use that attack, is he? The Jounin went slack-jawed behind his mask. Gato hacked up blood as he reached the peak of his flight, only to get put in a bear hug by the werewolf, W. What are you going to do? He coughed. His answer game in the form a straight plummet back down. That's the... Kakashi's eyes widened. Primary Lotus. Naruto howled as he went into a wild spin, still holding onto the little man. The two of them smashed into the bridge with a devastating slam, throwing up a mushroom cloud of dust and debris, as well as a few of the thugs who couldn't get away in time. Zabuza was forced to use his blade as a shield to block pieces of flying rock. When it finally cleared, they all saw Naruto standing before a huge crater on the bridge. In the middle lay the crushed body of Gato, driven headfirst into the concrete. "He just killed our bread and butter," one of the thugs yelled, only to get lopped in two by Zabuza. Naruto took a moment to recover from the exertion of the move before returning his attention back to the remaining thugs. By the time the townspeople arrived, spurred on by Inari, the handful of survivors were diving off the bridge to escape. In flashback, as gruesome as it was, she found it hard to be upset at him for it. The man had blatantly stated that they were going to rape every female there. It wasn't until then that Naruto decided they had to die. As she thought about too, she recalled that Sasuke seemed more concerned with the power the blonde was exhibiting than what the men would have done if they had gotten to them. As much as she refused to want to believe it, part of her was sickened by the Uchiha's attitude. The more she thought about it, the more she realized that if they hadn't intended to rape, Naruto more than likely would have, at most, put them in the hospital. Then it hit her. Maybe the blonde wasn't as bad as she led herself to think after he decked Sasuke that day. As Ino told her, he only did it after the personal insult. Maybe I better apologize. "Hey, Kurenai," Zabuza called out, walking over to the Genjutsu mistress, Haku beside him, but minus her mask. The red-eyed woman looked their way. "HM, I figured you two would have been long gone by now." "Yeah, we would have, but..." He looked at the girl before continuing. "Haku suggested we see if maybe we can join Konoha." Haku's had her fill of wandering from place to place, and to be honest, I'm getting a little tired of it myself. Besides, he gave an evil grin at the girl's sudden blush when she realized what he was about to say. Haku's got a crush on the blonde Gaki. "Zabuza," Haku squeaked in embarrassment, making Kurenai giggle. "Well, you'd have to get the okay from the Hokage. As for the other reason, you better be ready for competition. Hinata likes him, as well as a couple other girls back in the village. I don't think the poor boy even know how deep his predicament is." "Others," Haku said, her eyes showing a hint of disappointment for a second before changing to a steely resolve. "I have no intention of losing to them." Zabuza was forced to do a double take at her. This was a side of Haku he never saw before, and it was a little scary too. "Anyway," Kurenai spoke back up, "I'll let Kakashi know, and then we'll see what happens. We'll be here a bit longer though, at least until the bridge is completed. I think it's Kiba and Shino's turn for guard duty, but Naruto's helping with the construction, seeing as how he nearly broke the bridge the other day." Zabuza nodded. "Okay, we can." He looked over at Haku, only to find her gone. The only thing to show she had been there was a fading dust train in the direction on the bridge. Haku. At the bridge, Kiba and Shino were leaning against the side of the bridge, keeping watch. Kiba took a deep breath. This place ain't so bad now that we don't have to worry about someone wanting the old man dead. Shino remained silent. After a minute, he noticed Kiba was holding something and every so often would point it at one of the surrounding Narutos. Since a lot of the workers were still injured, the blonde used his shadow clones to fill in for them. "Kiba, what are you doing?" the Aburame asked, giving his friend a curious look. "Taking photos of Naruto that I plan to sell in Konoha." "Okay, one more thing, why?" Kiba chuckled. "You know how many girls back home would pay through the nose for pictures of a certain blonde without his shirt?" Shino didn't show it, but there was a hint of disapproval in his voice. "I hope you're aware of Naruto might do to you if he finds out." "Relax. What he doesn't know won't hurt him." "True, but when I find out, it'll be you that's hurting," Naruto said, glaring at Kiba before taking the camera away. The Inuzuka began to protest until Shino bopped him on the head. He started to tear the film out when he heard a squeak from nearby. Looking over her spied Haku staring at him, her normal ivory face now a bright pink. "Oh, hey Haku, What brings you out here? In Naruto Keikin. Your no shirt was all she could get out before passing out with a vigorous nosebleed. Nicely done, Kit. QB laughed from his cage. The bridge was completed within the next few days. It didn't take long for news to leak out, and things began to look up for Wave. The Konoha shinobi received their mission pay, and after saying their goodbyes to everyone, began the trek home. The trip back was uneventful, unless you count Sasuke attempting to bully Naruto into telling him how he performed that right unjutsu, as well as that move he killed Gato with. After being told no, he tried to threaten him with the council before Senbon from Haku and knocked him out. That and Haku being unable to look at Naruto without blushing brightly. The Hokage listened to the report, raising an eye at Zabuza's request for him and Haku to become Leaf Nin. I'm not too sure about this. Zabuza, you are an A-class missing Nin after all, though there's nothing in the bingo book concerning Haku. He took a drag on his pipe. Though considering what you told Kurenai, there might be a chance for you. I'll discuss it with the council and see what I can do. The join-ins and others were dismissed, but Sarutobi had Naruto, Zabuza, and Haku stick around. Until then, it's apparent you two will need a place to stay. I think the best choice for now would be with Naruto. You're kidding, right? Gramps, my place is barely a room and a half. The Hokage chuckled. I'm not talking about your apartment. Naruto, while you were gone, several council members and myself decided it was time to give you your parents' house. Naruto's ears perked up at that, making Haku fight back a squeal at their twitch. Say what? It's time you got your inheritance, Sarutobi said, tossing the blonde a set of keys. Besides, you'll need the extra room now, since the council decided your ability counts could be a bloodline. Why do I not like the sound of this? As of today, the Clan Restoration Act is now active for you. Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. Okay, what is that exactly? The color faded from Naruto's face as the Hokage told him what it entailed. Suna. Are you shitting me? The Kazekage nearly fell out of his chair when the scream echoed through his office. What the hell was that? Lousy, stinkin' no good. Naruto grumbled as he drove his fist into Raka in an attempt to blow off some steam from his meeting with the Hokage the other day. Normally it would have blown over by now, but this was a harem, for crying out loud. He felt like a damn pervert and the possibility of arranged marriages. Needless to say, he wasn't a happy little wolf. Kit, calm down. Getting all worked up about it isn't going to help. Besides, the fox grinned lecherously. Hooking up with a bunch of hotties? Slice of heaven, if you ask me. No one did ask you, Arrow Kitsune, and no one asked me either if I even wanted the friggin' thing put on me in the first place. Well, they can wait till Shikamaru and Lee trade lives for all I care. I'm not doing it. He struck the stone even harder, putting a small crater on the surface. You know you have until you're 17 to do it, right? That's a lot of time for you to change your mind. And you forget who they're dealing with. You of all people know how stubborn I can be when I want. Naruto was so preoccupied with his pummeling of the rock in the conversation, he almost failed to notice someone coming up behind him. There you're Naruto. The voice of Asuma, Sarutobi piped up. I've been hunting you down all day. He took a moment to light up before continuing. The Hokage wants to see you concerning another mission. Another? But I just got back from Wave. Asuma shrugged. He said the circumstances were more suited for you. The blonde growled, fine. Man first at CRA, now this. The CRA? You mean the council offered it to you? Lucky skunk. Asuma nearly dropped his cigarette. Offered? They shove it on me. The old man said once the act's been passed on to someone, they have until the age of 17 to find an acceptable number of potential brides or face fines and possible jail time. Well, I told him to let them try. He started to continue his rant, but was stopped cold when he saw the younger Sarutobi bent over in laughter. In Naruto, the CRA is purely voluntary. Say what? I think my dad pulled a fast one on you. The real Clan Restoration Act is offered to the last male member of clan. If he accepts, all it does is give him the okay to have more than one wife. The offer is normally extended when they reach puberty, to know why myself. Anyway, the 17 limit is just so they have time, otherwise the council just gives recommendations. Through all this, Naruto's expression changed from confusion to annoyance, and finally, Saru Dobi. He roared, a severe eye twitch forming as he made his way to the tower. Not funny, old man. XXXXXXXX. One busted door, 15 minutes of ranting about the Hokage's warped sense of humor, and a threat of payback later. Naruto was standing beside a giggling Yujito who had come in during his semi-scolding of the strongest ninja in the village. You sent for me, Hokage-san? She asked, standing beside her fellow Jinchuriki. Yes, the two of you are to head to Suna. I've received word that one of the Kazakage children is the carrier of the Ichibi no Tanuki, better known as the Shikaku. Both Yujito and Naruto took on a blank expression for a moment. The Nibi and Kyubi? Sarutobi asked, a hit of concern in his voice. Yeah, Kyubi considers Ichibi almost like a sister. He didn't know she had been contained till now. Yujito nodded. Nibi's pretty worried about her as well. Sarutobi looked surprised at learning the one tail was female, but decided to get back to business. Unfortunately, the sealing was done for the sole purpose of making the child into a weapon. It worked too well. Several innocent people have died recently because of this. Now, some of Suna's council members have decided to ask for help with the situation. I need you both to get there as soon as possible. They'll provide more information when you arrive. I swear, if they've done anything to hurt her, I'll raze that place to the ground myself. Kyubi snarled. Damn it, Fox. Raving like that isn't going to help. They'll tell us once we get there. Then we'll see what we can do to help. Naruto muttered as he finished sealing up his supplies for the trip. Now that I think about, you're sounding pretty damn protective of this Ichibi. The Fox sighed, trying to calm himself. To be blunt, she was the first being to ever be genuinely nice to me. She's also the youngest of all the 9-tailed beasts. I don't think anyone would expect one of us to be as innocent as she is. Wow. Well, hopefully we'll be able to fix things with that. Naruto stuffed the scrolls in his vest and began making his way to the city gates. On his way, he spotted Yujito heading there as well. It didn't take long for the two to meet up, and they immediately started on their way to Suna. Naruto, Yujito panted, coming to stop in the woods. We've been going nonstop for the last 7 hours. I gotta take a break. The blonde sat down. Yeah, I could use a breather too. Besides, if I remember the map at the academy, we still have a couple of days before we reach Suna. Since it was already nighttime, they decided to set up camp for the night. Naruto went off to hunt, and Yujito was keeping the fire stoked. You know, kitten, now that you two are alone, Nibi let out a seductive purr. That caused the kunoichi to flush bright red. Nibi, she squeaked indignantly. This isn't the time for that. He's a sweet guy, that's true, but now isn't. Oh, don't act so innocent. You forget, I've seen a couple of your fantasies. Like the one involving you two and the back of Ichiraku's. The feline laughed when her container blushed even brighter. We both know you've had the hots for the guy ever since that day you watched him train, remember? Yujito tried to fight the dreamy grin that was creeping on her face, but failed spectacularly as she recalled what happened, all because of the daimyo's wife's cat. What was supposed to be a routine 10-minute checkup turned into an hour-long fight when the cat decided to go apes hit after smelling dog on Hannah's clothes. After that, she immediately went to the first quiet place she could find for lunch to forget about the little monster. That place turned out to be Training Ground 11, and as her luck would have it, that was also where Naruto had picked to practice his katas. Fun, wasn't it, kitten? Nibi decided to tease her, especially when he took off his vest. All those yummy muscles in the sunlight and the way they flexed. Yeah, Yujito stared at her until she felt herself heating up and snapped out of it. Damn it, Nibi. She yelped, trying to calm down and ignore the cat's fit of giggling. Meanwhile, Naruto had managed to catch a small deer and was busy field dressing it when he felt the need to ask the fox something. Hey, QB, you said a chibi was the first one to ever be nice to you. What did you mean? Exactly what I said. QB responded, a long time ago, way before Konoha. Mind you, I got into a fight with Hachibi and Rokubi, the 8 and 6 tails. I managed to send them running, but I took a fair bit of punishment myself. To be honest, I wasn't exactly in any shape to defend myself if they had decided for another round. Anyway, I started looking for a place to recuperate when I ran into Ichi-chan. At first I thought she had gotten wind of the fight and came to finish the job, so I was pretty hostile to her. But she hung around regardless. I guess it wasn't in her to just leave somebody who was injured. It didn't take me long to realize she was looking at my wounds whenever I was asleep. When I learned that, I was too surprised to feel threatened. QB rested his head on his front paws as he reminisced. After that, we started talking. Never thought I'd say this, but Ichi-chan's one of the sweetest girls you'd probably ever meet, human or tail beast. Thanks to her, I was back to my old self in no time. Well, Hachibi got word and wasn't too happy that she had helped me. His tone darkened significantly. The Hebe team knew she wasn't as strong as he was, but he decided she needed punishment. I can't explain what happened when I learned they were fighting. All I remember is feeling undiluted rage at the worm wannabe. Did you let him live? Naruto asked, not really needing to know what happened next. He managed to slip away before I could finish the job. But, knowing him, he's probably still off somewhere trying to regrow the tails I ripped off him. He replied, with a hit of self-satisfaction. Yeah, sounds like you like her like you do Nibby. QB jolted to his feet in shock, nearly banging his head on the ceiling. Wah. And no, don't be ridiculous. I just care about her, that's all. Naruto chuckled. Oh, really? Your tone says otherwise. That's not true. I'll admit she's pretty cute. That big bushy tail of hers that twitched like mad when she laughed. How fluffy she could be when she cuddled up against me after she had a nightmare. The fact she'd scrunch up that cute little pink nose of hers when she tried to pout. Yep, you defiantly care about her. He busted out laughing when QB realized what he had just said. Wait, that is good. If it wasn't for his red fur, QB could be seen rivaling Hinata in the blush department. Tojikamu Bako Okami. The rest of the night was fairly normal, with the exception of Naruto getting a whiff of something odd when he returned to camp with the meat from his kill. Yugi, did you bring any candy with you? She shook her head. No, why? Something smells like honey around here. He took another sniff. Bit of vanilla too. Looking around, he failed to notice the thermonuclear blush on his traveling companion. Oh, Cammy, I knew there was something I forget to teach the kid about. QB's sweat dropped. Naruto could tell when a guy/girl liked someone. He knew that much. However, it was the other half of the subject that he was clueless about. Naruto shrugged as he put the meat on the fire. Must be a beehive nearby. Meanwhile, Yujito was mentally calling her tenant every name in the book. Finally, Naruto gasped as he and Yujito trudged their way up the gates of Suna after a day and a half in the scorching desert. Though since Nibby had a knack for flames, the heat didn't quite bother her as much as it did him. So, this is Suna? Doesn't exactly seem all that lively from here. Yujito said, shaking some sand from her hair. Halt! State your name and purpose. A Sunanin barked, suddenly appearing in front of them. What are Konohanin doing out here? Some of your village's council sent for us. Yujito responded, watching another shinobi show up. The new one seemed to be a captain, some kind of higher rank, since the first quickly snapped to attention at his presence. So you're the ones they sent? Huh? Well, let's hope you two are up to the job, he said, sending the other on his way and motioning for them to follow. Naruto noticed that everyone around them, civilian and shinobi, seemed to look a tad uneasy. Some were even glancing around as if they were worried someone was going to pop up on them. Yugi, you seeing what I'm seeing? Yeah, it's like a fear of attack, she said, watching a Chunin nervously finger a couple of kunai as they walked past. The Jounin spoke up. 3 more people died early this morning. The idiots thought they could launch a surprise attack and catch her off guard. All we found of them was a puddle of blood. Was the only thing Naruto and Yujito could respond with. The council will tell you more. He continued, not saying another word. XXXXXXXX, both of them had been expecting a full room when they reached the council chamber. Instead, all that greeted them was less than half a dozen people. Even their Kage was absent. What the heck's going on? Yujito said, both blondes tensing up. Welcome. You must be the shinobi Konoha sent. One of the men said, gesturing to a couple of chairs. Have a seat, and we will explain why we called for you. The duo looked at each other for a moment before slowly getting into the chairs. Naruto, setting his sword on the table, just in case. First of all, Kazuka-sama is currently visiting Mist, so he has no knowledge that you are here, nor do the majority of the council. The man told them. Hold up, just you 5 asked Konoha for help? Yujito asked, not really believing it herself. One of the other members, a slightly elderly woman, nodded. We did not know what else to do. Too many have died already, mainly from their own foolishness, but still. She shook her head. I take it the Hokage has informed you about who we are talking about? Yeah, the Kazekage sealed the Ichibi no Tanuki into one of his own kids. Naruto said with a bite of disgust in his voice. Sadly, yes. The being was sealed into his youngest child, his newborn second daughter, Kijo. However, the process of sealing a tailed beast requires a human sacrifice to work. Rose's mother was that sacrifice. What the hell's wrong with that guy? Nibby hissed, wishing she was out so she could give the Kazekage a one-way ticket to hell herself. Damn lunatic as far as I'm concerned. Yujito replied. Kyuubi and Naruto were thinking the same thing. What the hell possessed him to do that? Naruto demanded. He felt that Suna needed a strong weapon. He also felt performing the sealing on his own child would make it more controllable. Unfortunately, the way he performed it was flawed. The councilwoman took a drink before continuing. None of us are sure exactly what happened, but shortly after the sealing was performed, half the people present were slaughtered by a wave of sand surrounding the child. It was then he considered the attempt a failure and decided to have her put down. Another chimed in, causing an inhuman snarl to escape Naruto's lips. That bastard, he growled, his leaking voice taking over for a moment, briefly startling them. She's a human being, not some rabid animal or something. Kit, if we ever meet that son of a bitch, I say we kill him, slowly and painfully as effing possible. Kyuubi roared, already picturing ways to make the man suffer. That order never came to fruition. Having the one tail sealed in Kijo gave her an almost living defense. There have been countless attempts by both civilian and ninja to end her life. All have been intercepted by the sand. The third council member sighed. What makes it worse is at first, she was a surprisingly pleasant child. All she seemed to really want was a few friends. However, those that didn't fear what she carried hated her for it. Even her uncle, the one person she thought truly cared about her. She changed the day he tried to kill her himself. Now she's colder than ice, killing just about everyone who crosses her. Even her brother and sister are lucky to have lived this long. This is why we called Konoha for help. The councilwoman cut in. Kijo is well aware of what Suna shinobi are capable of, but she knows nothing of the leaf. It's our hope that you can possibly catch her off guard, and if anything, at least try to stop her bloodlust. We're praying you can do whatever is possible before the week is OU. That is when Kazekage-san will return. Should he learn of this, he will have all of us executed for treason, and possibly you too as well, since you came without his permission. The two Jinchuriki looked at each other for a moment before facing the councilman. We'll do what we can. Naruto said.
That's it for today. Remember to show your support to the creator of this story if you enjoyed it. If you would like more parts of the story to be uploaded, leave a comment and subscribe to get notified when the story continues. Bye-bye for now, and I hope that you all have a wonderful rest of your day.